getting a little frizzy. Right on. This is actually somehow less humidity than where you're from. Yeah, this is great. If you guys don't know, we're both from Long Island, so we're used to this kind of stuff. I now live in California. You live in Lake Placid, so you know. Ever been into this place?
I'd love to go around the room and everybody say their name, where they're from.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll start on this side of the room.
My name is Dana Phelan, and I am from Naples, Florida.
Wonderful. Welcome, Dana. Thanks so much for being here. Oh, we forgot Savannah. Savannah.
I'm Savannah, and I'm from Springfield, Missouri.
Right on.
Nice.
And Anne-Marie Scheimer, also from Naples, Florida.
Anne-Marie, thanks for being here.
Nice, welcome.
I am Trinidad Lacasa, and I'm from Kent, Washington.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Trinidad, thanks for being here. Kate.
I'm Jade from Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Wonderful.
Nice, welcome.
I'm Martin from Kent, Washington also.
Wonderful.
Nice.
I'm Robin from San Diego.
I'm Brad, number 2. I'm from Edison, New Jersey. So
Oh,
not too far.
not too far.
Not too far.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hey guys, I'm Angeli and I'm from Toronto, also called T-Dot, also called
Represent
the
Polar
Six,
Toronto.
represent
The
A.
Six for the Canadians across the
From
world.
A, I'm from Toronto.
I love it.
Andrew Mercy, I'm from Calgary, Alberta.
Birthday boy.
And
Woo!
it's
And it's his birthday!
It's Angeli's birthday tomorrow.
Is it?
It's a Canadian birthday party!
Mine was on Sunday.
Wow, you're allowed to
Yeah, so all cancers in the house.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Mine was on Sunday. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll have to have a cake now,
We're gonna have
right?
one. We'll get him. We got him all the American birthday presents. We got him a cake. We got him a flag. We got him American whiskey. I got you some things as well, but I don't want to ruin the surprise. It's gonna be awesome.
All right, good.
It was a
It's a
big
American flag, though. I'm super happy about that.
Yeah, maybe we'll move to Facebook at some
You
point.
might want to move the Facebook over there.
Moving to Facebook.
I don't
What if
know.
I put it on that chair there? We just have to plug it in somewhere else. Would that be right?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay. That'll be just us.
You're moving Facebook Live.
Facebook's moving.
Woohoo.
It's okay, Facebook.
It's okay.
We still love you, Facebook. This will be right
Okay, where were we? Juliana.
Hey.
I am Juliana. I am from Barbados, but I live in New Rochelle, New York.
Woo! Wait, we're forgetting somebody back there, Lori.
Hi, I'm Laurie Schulzart. I'm from Danville, California.
We forgot Steve. Steve is Lori's husband and also from California.
He's super
Also from Springfield, Missouri and Kent, Washington.
Wow!
I used to live in Kent and I used to live in Verona, Missouri.
Whoa.
Which is-
Oh, the Verona cornfield.
Yeah, yeah.
This is popping.
I moved there from California at age 16. You imagine my joy
Yeah, I feel you.
to live on a dairy farm.
California's great, but you know where I really want to live? Verona.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Gabriella. I'm from Detroit, Michigan.
Welcome. Stan.
I'm Stan, and I'm from Belgium.
Welcome, Stan.
So Stan is the longest travel, I would have to say,
Yes.
right? All right, so we're going to give him a gift.
Anybody coming from China or Australia? No? Okay. So yes, Stan,
This is your gift.
You are the longest traveler to get here.
The
Thank you
longest
for being here.
traveler. So those are affirmation cards. So we talk about having good habits, right? I have a deck, 21 cards of affirmation cards that clear your chakras. And so that's what I gave.
That's a
Nice.
good gift.
And if you guys, yeah, and so when I ask for helpers, now you guys know, hint, hint, what you'll get as a gift if you help me. All right, perfect. Good, so welcome everybody. So glad for you to be here today. I am Delina, I'm sure you guys already know, and I'm from Long Island, New York. I live upstate now in Lake Placid. And this is my partner in crime, Brad Hart. Brad is from Long Island and now lives in California. Are you in San Diego now?
I am. I live
In
in
San
Cardiff.
Diego.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
north of San Diego. It's a beautiful place.
So we want to tell you a little bit about us, how we met, a little bit about the mastermind, and then I'll start with the presentation.
Okay, well, Delina and I met at a event called Wealth Mastery.
Yeah.
Life and Wealth.
Life and
Mastery.
Wealth, Tony Robbins' Life and Wealth Mastery
So-
in Florida,
Yep.
Marco Island,
That's right.
Florida. So he has it in Fiji and Marco Island every year. And I went to the Marco Island and tell the little story.
Do you want to tell the whole story?
Tell the whole
all the
story,
dirty
I
little
think-
details? Okay, great. So, how I met Delina was...
Like he's gonna have a hard time with this one.
No, this is going to be fun, actually. And I get to embarrass her, so this is my favorite
Exactly.
part. So Delina and I met at an event, and at Life and Wealth Mastery, they do a series of cleanses. You can like do a juice fast and go vegan for a while, like raw vegan for 5 days. They also do a series of colonics. And if you've never done colonic before, they clean you out, right? It's like,
Okay, you guys know what a colonic is?
They know what's up. They know what's
Awesome.
up. Well done. Thank you for representing. I'm not doing that.
Inside the vacuum cleaner.
So basically, yeah, you do that whole thing, and you go on a series of them, right? Because the first one, you can't just do it all in one sitting. They do it over 4 days.
Yeah.
So I think it was like the second day, and
We met the night before.
Yeah, it was like our first meal.
Yeah, we were detoxed for like at least 5 days at that point, not eating,
So just
on
juices,
smoothies
yep.
and juices. So, by the time they say it's your first meal, you're hangry. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want to eat,
Who's ever been hangry before?
right?
You're ready
Like-
to hit somebody over a piece
You're
of
ready
broccoli.
to hit somebody, right? Like, over salad. Like, they didn't give you anything but salad for your first meal because you're clean, right? So I remember I was sitting next to a client of mine, a coaching client of mine, and I purposely left the seat next to me open because I wanted my space. I wanted to talk to my client, and because of these types of things here too, because this is so I wanted my space. So guess who comes up with all of his masculine energy and sits right down and introduces, he's had all this power and his energy, and sits down and starts talking, and he looks to the guy next to him, and he starts a conversation, and the guy next to him happened to have the same last name as he did.
He points to my name badge and says, "Oh, I'm Chris Hart." I'm like, "Oh, I'm Brad Hart." And we start chatting about that.
Right.
And Chris is actually crewing at UPW.
Yeah, so we'll see him there today.
We're gonna see him there. You guys can meet, and then we've spent time with Rebecca and Chris.
Yeah,
and
we're friends.
They live
Good
in Myrtle
friends with
Beach,
them
and
now.
you have a
They're
house
great.
in Myrtle Beach.
Yep,
So
we became really good
the world
friends.
gets smaller.
So then, I hear his accent a little bit, and I turn to him, and eventually he just turns over, and he says some real smart-ass remark, straight from Long Island type of remark, right? And I looked at him, and I just basically said, "Where are you from?" And he's Long Island. I was like, I get it because of what you're, how you're showing up right now. Like, it's real strong accent, and it's just very aggressive. It's like what we call Strong Island. That's how he came, and he was talking, right? And I just wanted my space, like peace. I just wanted to meditate and enjoy my food.
I just remember your laugh.
Right.
Your laugh was what I heard first. I was like, this girl is obviously East Coast. I just had to figure out where it's from. So I probably said something.
And we're really
charming
only like
and-
20 minutes away, charming.
Yeah.
We're really only like 20 minutes away from each other. Like we actually grew up pretty close to each other. We're both
So,
single children.
Babylon. Yeah, can't
Yeah.
you tell only children? We can't even let each other talk.
Both single children.
Babylon, Waiting River, very
Yeah,
close.
yeah.
Very close, very,
Yes.
very Suffolk County, Long Island.
Yeah.
We'll get some coffee, we'll talk about it.
Right. And so we talked all night, and then eventually.
So like the lights go down, we're talking about turtles, I remember there was a thing
Yeah,
with the
there's
turtles.
a
They
thing
had to
with the
turn the lights
turtles.
down so that the sea turtles could find their way to shore.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. They come and they lay their eggs, and if there's too many lights, they'll
Yeah.
get distracted and they won't be able to
True.
come and lay their eggs and do their thing. So they had to turn on the lights. So we're literally sitting there in the dark talking about turtles and life and the universe
Yeah.
and everything. And like 2 hours go by. And the same night, a lot of shifts happen at an event like this. I just remember
Yeah.
being so on fire, I couldn't sleep. I ended up writing what became the passage, the beginning introduction of the book we're writing called The Choice, which is coming out later this year.
That the
That night.
mastermind group is writing together.
I'm going to read you the section that I wrote the night I met Delina later on in the presentation, so stay tuned for that. No, I'll do it later, it's fine. Yeah.
How long was that? Was it like a one day? The walk?
So
No.
Life Wealth Mastery is 9 days.
Oh, 9 days.
Yeah,
When it
so
starts with life, the detox, then they start to feed you for wealth.
Break it down, build it back up.
and then you get a wealth of broccoli and coconut
I
oil.
mean, like, we live 20 minutes from Mark.
Oh, you should definitely do
Definitely
it.
check it out.
It's I'll get the dates from you. I mean for you.
We did it in October, I want to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll get it for you.
And then I've got another really good story about feathers, trucks, and bricks from that same time at
yeah.
Wealth Mastery, which comes
Yeah,
later as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So stay
And we
tuned
just
for all
kept
that.
bumping into each other. And so when we knew, God, we should be working on a project, and we actually created the mastermind there at the event, which is quite interesting. So kind of the stars aligned, and we really just like focused, and we just, I think it's proximity, right? You're in proximity together for like a full week. That's when if you meet people, that's why I think masterminds are so important, because you never know who you're going to meet in the environment that you're in. And if you connect and that, there's always a purpose. So this was our purpose, with each other. And ever since, literally 3 months later, we launched.
Wow.
And we started with a beta group.
Mm.
And we had like 12 people. And then we grew from there. So that beta group stayed with us, and then we just kept growing and growing. We're only 2 years in, but 2 years in, now we're having our first on-site. We have our book that we wrote together with as a group, the Mastermind.
13 authors.
And then
some
we
of our
did-
members are still in from the very beginning. Karen,
Right.
who's going to be joining
Yeah.
us, is in from the
Sten
beginning. Sten's in
is from the beginning. Okay, so what was I going to say?
Oh, right. So.
Oh, we have the book, and then we're doing this thing with UPW,
Yeah.
right? Where we have like 50 people joining us, and so we're growing and growing. It's been great. The experience, it's a journey. Life is a journey, so the experience has been fantastic.
It's
So
actually a marriage of our brands too.
It is.
So if you notice, there's 1,000 marbles in a jar. When you first walk in,
Mhm.
there's a story about how the woman who owns this house, every Saturday, she gives a marble out or takes a marble.
she
What does
takes
do?
a marble out of the jar to remind her to do something purposeful. And so she may give it to somebody, or she'll just give it away. It's to represent, to make sure that she stays present. You know, as we get older, she wants to make sure that life is short. She wants to make sure that she has some gratitude and she's experiencing some joy with her family and friends. So she makes sure that on every, once a weekend, she grabs a marble. And so she said that the marble jar, there's actually a little letter in there that describes it. Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Powerful, yeah. So something like that we could all do, right? It's just to remind ourselves. And so she said, since we're doing this, her marble will be this for us, and we can take one marble.
And so there's never an accident, right? Make more marbles is a metaphor for me. I come from the real estate and hedge fund background where it's a very zero-sum game. It's a very marble grabbing kind of game. So my whole brand is about making more marbles and more abundance. Her whole brand is about helping you find, live, and share your purpose. So when you take abundance and you take purpose, now you have the marriage of those two brands, Abundant Purpose Mastermind, which is what brought you all here together today. So what I've learned in my life, and I'll share another story about this later, is that life gives you all these opportunities to make magic moments, right? And to create things that you may otherwise have just overlooked. And it's always giving you little nudges and little signs to make sure that you're paying attention. So I'll transition to the story about the feathers, the bricks, and the trucks, because this is also relevant to wealth mastery. So about a day or two later after we met, Scotty, who's a facilitator for Tony, is from the Gold Coast. He's this really brash Australian guy. He's been to UPW a million times, and he tells this really great story. And it's a metaphor. He says, life, sometimes when it wants to tell you something, or if you're just slightly off course, it'll give you a little feather. It'll just give you a little tap. Hey, you're just a little off course, right? And if you can ignore the feathers if you want, and eventually life will get annoying. You'll be walking down the street one day, and all of a sudden you get hit with a brick, and you'll be like, "What's with the bricks? Like, I didn't do anything wrong." Oh, but you weren't listening. So life, if you ignore the bricks, will keep giving you bricks, and one day it's going to get annoyed and say, "Hey, you're really going to listen this time." You're going to be walking across the street, and you're going to forget to look both ways, and Mack truck is going to smack you as you're going down the street. So feathers, bricks, and trucks. So what I was dealing with throughout that whole journey was I was living in my head. And my last name's Hart, so I'm supposed to live in my heart, right? Brad Hart.
Bless you.
Bless you, by the way. And for me, that's been my biggest challenge and my biggest struggle is like, how do I stay out of my head where all the logic resides? I come from very, like I said, zero-sum games, real estate, finance. It's very heady, it's very East Coast, it's very aggressive. How do I live in my heart where the capacity is?
Right.
So I leave the event, and we're going on a 3-hour break, and I was staying in an Airbnb nearby, so I rode this little beach cruiser bicycle all the way back, and it's a beautiful sunny day in Marco Island. It's nice, and the birds are chirping, and the sun is shining. And for whatever reason, or no reason at all, I start getting in my head. And I'm going down the street, and I think I see, and make eye contact with the driver that's about to make a right-hand turn as I'm crossing the street. But as I go to cross the street, he starts pulling out to make the right-hand turn and knocks me over into traffic and, rolls over the bike. The bike's completely crushed, and all of the cars start screeching, and I almost died that day on that beautiful sunny day in Marco Island, Florida. And when I looked, and I came, I got a sense of what happened, and I looked in the back of the truck that hit me, it was entirely filled with paving stones. Or bricks. So, if you're following along at home, I literally got hit by a truck full of bricks that day.
Wow.
And I
Bird
got,
on it or something?
it was crazy. So,
You got it all.
I can't make this up. This is one of the craziest, most surreal experiences that ever happened to me. So I go back to the event, and I'm getting patched up by the lovely guy, the medic that was there, and Scotty walks by. He's like, "What the heck happened to you?" I'm like, "Scotty, I've been thinking a lot about this trucks and bricks thing." He says, "Oh, it's a great metaphor." I said, "It's not a metaphor. People are getting hit by trucks full of bricks out there. It's immediate." we had a laugh about it, and ever since then, like guys, I've been paying attention to the feathers. So I just want to invite you again. Never tell a story without a point, and never make a point without a story. I want to invite you today and throughout your experience at UPW is to notice the things that are triggering you. Notice the things that are bumping up against you in a weird way or making you uncomfortable, because those are the things that you need to pay attention to. Those are the feathers that, if ignored, will become the bricks in the trucks in your life, or the brick trucks, or wherever that guy is nowadays. God bless him, because he showed me that day that if I live in my head, I'm dead. You're going to hear Tony say that a lot, and what that really means is that there's more capacity down here than we realize. And we start tapping into our hearts, that's where all the magic happens. So thanks for listening.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. So that's a little bit about us. Does anybody have any questions before we kind of start?
Brad Newman.
Stan said during the mastermind you get to drive tanks over cars.
That's our next onsite. With Arnold Schwarzenegger, we're saving up our own made points to go and hang out.
Different mastermind.
Different mastermind. I was confused then. Maybe you should implement that.
Yeah.
We're always open for trips, guys. We love doing it. We just took.
We did race
we partnered
cars.
up with Michael. Yeah, we did race cars with Steve and Jay and Josh and all them. And then we did a trip with Michael Quinn and the Simple Product Sourcing Mastermind. We went to China. We took 50 people to China. So we're always doing trips like this. So literally, we're probably crazy enough to do it if we have the time and enough people want to do it. And that's the great thing about masterminds, guys, is that you get to do cool stuff. It's not just a bunch of people sitting around a room. And yeah, you make the shifts, and yeah, you get the coaching, yeah, you get the support, and yeah, you get the accountability, but the relationships you form, provided you're willing to show up and take an interest in people and give, will stand the test of time. And I can tell stories, and I will throughout the day, about the ways that masterminding in general has changed my life, both as a member of 15 high-end masterminds all over the world with famous authors and celebrities and people that are changing the world literally, and then also the ones that we run, which are also good in their own way. No, I'm kidding. No, we've made some really serious shifts. We've had, I think, over 100 clients now come through our masterminds in the various different ones. We've traveled all over the world. We've done some amazing stuff. People that are just starting out in whatever they're doing, or maybe they're still in a corporate job, or maybe they, still work at freaking Target, or whatever they're doing. And then you got people that are running 9-figure businesses, titans and captains of industry. You had a question?
Okay, so the mastermind group that you all started. Do you meet regularly? Do you do Skype? Do you do phone call? What is it?
So the Abundant Purpose Mastermind, the format is virtual, right? So we want everybody from around the world to be able to participate.
Okay.
So we have a monthly call on Zoom, and we'll talk more about that towards the end, how the function of the mastermind works. But essentially a mastermind group, for anybody who is not familiar, it was coined by Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich. And what it essentially is just a group of like-minded people who have a similar goal that are supporting each other in doing that, right? So a mastermind coming together, a bunch of minds forming a mastermind to solve problems and meet challenges or celebrate or keep each other accountable, whatever they're doing.
But this group is virtual?
Correct.
Yeah.
Is there a weekly, monthly?
Monthly. So the first Wednesday of the month between 1 and 3 Eastern time.
Okay.
And all the calls are recorded. And we have a private Facebook group, so if you can't make the call, people will just go in and they'll view the recording.
Okay.
And we have people from 5 different countries. So Sten's in our group, and he's from Belgium, and we have Karen and her husband that are coming. They're from Spain.
Okay.
Norway originally lived in Spain.
Yeah. So 1 to 3 Eastern, once a month, and we use Zoom conference. So everyone comes in on video.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is our first actual on-site for this mastermind, but we've done on-sites, like I said, in China and Hong Kong and other places as well.
Yeah, it's fun. It's, a mastermind's really about the people. It's about the synergy of the group. It's about, everyone's network and everyone's experience, everyone's, pearls, their wisdom, right, to support each other. Right? So you have Brad and I that are, experience with coaching, because that's what we do, and we have, we help a lot in that area, but then everyone else also has experience in whatever somebody's challenge or problem is, and so it's their opportunity there to contribute and to help, right? So that now you have 15 people helping you in that one challenge.
Is Billy from the one from Naples?
Bill was,
Is he part of this group
yes,
as well, right?
yeah, he is not in the group right now.
Okay.
But yes, that's exactly,
okay.
yeah,
Same
group.
Okay, that's what I was curious.
Yeah.
So he was gracious enough to actually let me stay at his house for a little while.
Yeah.
When I came back from Europe. So I think the key piece to remember is that it's just a format, right? It's just a place for people to come together and do cool stuff and help each other, and that's it. And you know, for me, the magic is really in the individual relationships you form over the years. You know, it's like the stuff that happens behind the scenes. It's not even on the group calls. You know, when people just reach out and say, hey, how you doing with this? Or hey, you know, I wanted to follow up with what we said on the call. Or hey, you know, I've got a connection for you, or a resource, or an opportunity, or a person, or a system that I want you to plug into. Yeah, so that's what the real benefit is. Okay.
And there's some major shifts that happen on those calls because you're working now, you're with people for 2 years, at least a year. And so you're really getting to know people, and there's a lot of trust and rapport built in that group. And so people are coming to the calls with real challenges, and they're opening, there's vulnerability on there, you know, and they're opening up, and they're really discussing, like, you know, something that is pressing, and maybe they wouldn't have even told their husband or their wife, right? So, you know, that's a real safe space for people to get the support that they need. And we don't see our own stuff, you know, we have blinders on, and so, right? So it's really important, everybody else's perspective of it, because they're not attached to the outcome, they're not attached, they're not emotionally in it.
Yep.
I can't even tell you, even as a coach, I can't coach myself out of stuff.
Yeah, let's just get a show of hands. How many times have you seen somebody else's thing before they see it?
Oh, God.
They're a blind
All the
spot.
time.
How many times has somebody pointed out something that you just couldn't see?
Yeah.
Every hand is up. If you guys are watching, every single hand is up in this room because it's a human experience. We know what we know, and we know what we don't know, and if those are little, very small slivers of the pie, the whole rest of the pie is everything that we don't know that we don't know, which could fill up the entire universe, and in fact it does, right?
It is the universe, you're right.
And I think that's why it's important to be in a relationship and not isolated.
Yeah, so to connect.
Yes.
But you know, I learned that later, you know, unfortunately, but I get it now. Like, we're not supposed to isolate ourselves. We are supposed to connect with people because that person, God's going to work through that person to give you the answer. God's going to work, you know, the universe is going to work through somebody else. The angels are all here. So that answer comes through people. You know, I used to think that that person was going to take from me, and it's actually that person's going to give to me. But that's a huge shift in itself, you know. So yeah, connection's important.
So I think this is a great place to transition into your presentation.
Okay, yeah. I always start the mastermind with a prayer. It's called the opening prayer. And I don't see any reason why we should change that now. So it really just helps to kind of center ourselves and ground ourselves. And so I'm going to ask you all to kind of just get present. Find your center of gravity. Close your eyes if you'd like. Just connect to your heart. Take a deep breath in. And really just try to feel your heart. And try to sense the ground from underneath you. And now I want you to try to get a sense and feel the top of your head almost being lifted off your neck. So you're elevating your head a little bit. And I want you to imagine a beautiful beam of white light that's coming from your crown of your head all the way up into the sky. And it's connecting you. And you're receiving. And you're receiving all of this beautiful white warm light. And you feel very grounded, and you could feel your feet being really grounded and being pulled to the core surface of the earth. And so now you are this cord that is connecting the white light flowing through your body and cleansing you, almost like ocean of water working through your body, and it shoots out through the core, the center of your feet, the soles of your feet, into the core surface of the earth, and then it bounces back from the core surface of the earth, and it comes through your body and shoots all the way up again. And so this light is just a vortex. And at this time, we call on to the highest power of the universe to guide us, to support us, to bring love into the space, to give us what it is that we really need, to open us where we are closed, to bring light to the areas where we are dark, and to bring strength to the areas where we are weak. We ask that everyone is open and everyone supports each other. May we get the wisdom. May we also have the ability to let go of the things that we need to let go in order to open ourselves to the opportunities and to the possibilities that can exist for us. May you use us as tools. Show us where to go. Tell us what to say. Tell us what to do. And may we act as faucets so that you can flow through us. Take a deep breath in. Show us where to go. Show us what to say. Show us what to say and to whom. Deep breath in. And just sit with that for a little bit. See how that feels. And when you're ready, open up your eyes. So that's our opening prayer. And it's good to kind of just like be present with that. Hopefully you guys will be able to receive what it is that you are all here for. And sometimes that means, it most likely means to let things go. And sometimes that's hard to do. And sometimes we don't know what that is. And that's okay. But you just need to have the intention to be available and to be open. So the prayer really is to open us where we're closed, to bring light to the areas that are dark, and to give us courage to the areas where we are not strong. Okay? So one day, I have a story, Tony looked at me right in my eyes, and he said, "Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure." And I looked at him, and I looked back at him, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't get it. I didn't understand what he was saying at all. Like, who are you talking to? What are you talking about? You must not be talking to me. And I went through this whole thing, you know how Brad said he was in his head? I was so in my head, I was running through this whole thing, and he kept staring at me. And I was thinking to myself, like, I'm an overachiever like you, so I don't understand what you're talking about, because as an overachiever, success is happiness. As an overachiever, you know, progress is happiness. Achieving is happiness. So I had never considered what he was saying before. But then as I sat there with it for a little while, I got it, because immediately I got a flashback of my entire very successful unhappy career. And in that moment, at that same moment, it's like it all comes together in what I call alignment. In that same moment, I got a glimpse of my purpose in life. And it was the furthest away. It had nothing to do with success. Although success would be a result of it, it had more to do with just being loved and being happy. And if I could be loved and I could be happy, then I could radiate that out. And then if I could radiate that out, then you could feel it too. And then if you could feel it too, then you would give yourself permission to be happy and to be loved. And that all was beautiful, except I was none of it. Like, I hadn't experienced, I wasn't experiencing that. So it was a glimpse, right? It was like, that's what you're supposed to do. And then I was like, okay, great, but that's not what I am. At the moment, that's who we all are. But at the moment, I had layers of stuff, like that onion that peels, right? Personal growth is all about peeling back the onion. And so I was feeling frustrated and uncomfortable in my own skin, disappointed in life, you know. just depressed, stuck. Like we've all had those feelings where we're really feeling uncomfortable. Not, if anything, we're the furthest from being loved. What is that anyway, right? Like I didn't get it. So success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I really, for the first time, understood that. But have you ever, we've all actually, I shouldn't say have you ever, because we've all crossed a finish line of some form of achievement. So that finish line is, any big milestone in your life. So it could be graduating from college, getting married, having kids, anything, any big goal that you had set for yourself. That's a finish line, right? Well, I had crossed that finish line in 2011 after moving it multiple times. I really felt like I was there. I should have been there, right? That was my line. Except, have you ever crossed the finish line and then realized you really weren't happy? Like you had an expectation of the fulfillment that you would feel, and the joy that you should feel, and you crossed it and you realized that it was not that at all. It was almost like it was a facade, because logically you knew you were supposed to feel a certain way, and so you'll tell people, but you actually weren't feeling it or experiencing it. So I felt like a fake, and I knew that I was betraying my heart. Except I didn't understand, because I had success in the form of things. And that's what society teaches you, right? It teaches you to be successful, have more, be more, do more, when in fact that's your ego. Okay? So I just kept doing more of that. And I was temporarily fulfilling my need that I wasn't, because I didn't feel enough, right? I was temporarily fulfilling with shiny objects, and we've all done that. More and more shiny objects. And I finally hit a place where I felt like I was in this vicious cycle, because I needed to have more and be more to feel enough, but I never felt enough. I was constantly feeling like I was, just needing to get the next fix, and it was very much a drug, right? So it was a conflict. I was having an inner conflict, and the other problem with that inner conflict was that society teaches you these are the comforts of your lifestyle. This is what you need to feel good about yourself, to feel safe. And compared to the lifestyle I was raised in as a child, I didn't have that. I grew up in a very crisis, instability, a lot of change. I grew up, my mom was a single parent, and she raised me by herself. And we were always moving, and there was never money. And so there was a lot of emotional crisis. And so for me, having all those things was safe. And it was much better for me because it was better than what I came from. So all this success on paper, like by society standards, I was successful on paper, but I wasn't feeling successful. So at that point, in 2011, I had what I called an identity crisis. And I actually looked up on Google what the definition of an identity crisis, and I want to read this to you because it's quite interesting. Identity crisis, Google defines as a period of uncertainty and confusion in which a person's sense of identity becomes insecure, typically due to a change in their expected aims or role in society. And when I read this the first time, I thought, I definitely had, and I had an identity crisis. Now I'm reading it again, and I realize that I was probably having an identity crisis since I was in puberty. Because look at this, so a period of uncertainty and confusion in which a person's sense of identity becomes insecure. Like, what average 14-year-old is not experiencing that, right? So I definitely was. So basically at that point, I didn't know what to do. I had hit rock bottom. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust my decisions. Like, everything that I had done, I didn't trust at that point. I kept moving the line, right? So I hired a coach, and I had a life coach. And in that experience, I was able to kind of get a lot more clarity. That led me down a path to find the answers that I was searching in personal growth and personal development. So that was about 2012. And then shortly after that, I became a Tony Robbins coach. And then within the first year, I will tell you that when something's right and it's the right path for you, the door's open, wide open, right? So we're not really supposed to be struggling, you know, how society says everything's supposed to be, you know, work hard, you know, that it's not that actually. It's not that you won't do work, but the door's open. Things are supposed to be magic. If magic's not happening for you, so we're off somewhere. So go back and reverse engineer and change the approach. Because my entire career, I was struggling, I was working hard, and I was doing, and nothing. I felt exhausted at the end of the day. And then I started coaching, and I started to open up, and I started to experience all of this love and joy and fulfillment and gratitude, and the doors started to open. So becoming a Robbins coach within 3 months of me getting my coaching certification. And so that's, you know, 250 applicants, and then it gets narrowed down to like 14. Right, and so I just want, the point of that is just to let you know that when you're on the right path, miracles are supposed to happen, and that's how you know it should be your measurement. Why do I tell you this story? Because I want you to understand that personal growth is a decision and a commitment, and it requires work, and you need to be committed to yourself. It's an investment in yourself. And so when I decided to do this, I had to go through pain, and I didn't run away from it. And so UPW is not going to be easy for everybody. You are going to experience some stuff. Your stuff's going to come up. And your job is not to walk out of the room. It's to be there and to go through the layers of hurt. Because unless you get through the layers of hurt, you do not feel the experience, you will not feel the freedom that you're seeking, you will not get the joy, you will not be unleashed. I mean, it's called Unleash the Power Within for a reason, right? So I really want you to understand that I did the work. I'm not standing up here, you know, I walk my talk. And so I just need you all to understand that it does require you. I've gone to so many events. I coach. You know, what I'm still learning myself, what I'm going to teach you today, I'm still trying to master myself. So, you know, it requires you to do it for yourself first and then to teach it for others, okay? But you've got to make the commitment to yourself to do it and to stay there, to walk on fire, right? To make the commitment to yourself, to shift your identity, to master your emotions, right? Personal mastery, emotional mastery, I believe is the key to life, okay? And living in a beautiful state, which we're going to talk about today. So,
New Jersey State?
Yeah.
New Jersey is a beautiful state.
That's a garden state, but yeah.
It's also a beautiful garden.
It is a beautiful state, yes. So yeah, it just, you know, it's about experiencing, right? And then it's after you experience it for yourself, it's about being able to transfer that and contribute that to others, right? That's our part. That's really our purpose, right? Our purpose in life is to really radiate that. It's to receive it and then to radiate it out. Okay? And that could be different for everybody. For me, it's love and light. It might be joy for you. It might be presence for somebody else. For men, a lot of times it's presence. It might be knowledge. It's your job to connect to that and to find that. And when you do, you know, because you'll be excited. You're supposed to be excited. All right, cool. So, I'm going to talk about emotional mastery, personal mastery. I also want to welcome the other people that came into the room. Hey. Brenda, Joe, Hadi, and his family. So nice to meet you. We did some introductions earlier. Do you want to say who you are and where you're from?
My name is Shane, and I'm from Baltimore.
Great.
This is Ari. I'm from Baguio.
Great.
I'm Brenda, and I'm from Delaware.
Yes, same thing with the drive-through states.
Welcome.
Corporate governance and drive-through.
Where you sound every good.
All right. Okay.
Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
Welcome. We're so excited for you to be here. All right. I am like a sixth grader stuck in an adult body. So this is my way of the 6-year-old in me having fun. It's all about color, creation, and being very young and ridiculous. Okay, first step in personal mastery, emotional mastery. If you want to master yourself, you got to remember one thing. Emotional mastery starts with who?
You.
It starts with you, right? It starts with you, yourself, that's right. It starts with you, right? It has nothing to do with me. All right, who wants to be my help? If you guys know what the gift is. All right. So you get to place this anywhere in the room. So we're going to decorate this room with my art, with my 6th grade art. Anywhere in the room. emotional mastery starts with you. What does that really mean, right? So I like to take things and break them down and make them tangible so we can all understand them. It really means, it can mean a lot of things, but what does it really mean? It really means taking 100% responsibility for your life. Done. Period, right? So when you're taking 100% responsibility for your life, you're not blaming others or the environment or anything like that. You're looking at yourself and saying, what's my responsibility in this? So this is my favorite formula. I didn't invent it, but it's very smart. E plus R equals O, where E is the event, or it could be another person, or the circumstance. It could be the weather. It's anything outside of you. It's some type of external factor, okay? R is your response to that, and O is the outcome or the result that you want, right? Okay, so what do we do when we don't get the outcome or the result that we want?
How?
Do we blame the E or the R?
Blame the event.
We blame the event all the time, right? But we really should be looking here, right? So taking 100% responsibility means to cut out the blaming, the complaining, and your excuses, period. If you looked at that one principle every single day of your life, in fact, we're going to do it now, I just decided. If you really took a look at that, if you really, so there's two ways to learn something. One is, and Tony's going to talk about this, there's a cognitive way of learning something. It's the intellectual way. The reason why we go to events, the same events over and over and over again, is because we get it here, but doesn't mean we're living it. And so you have to hear something at least 7 times, right? So I'm not going to teach you anything you don't know, but I might be saying it differently. Or you might be saying it and something clicks, an aha or something, right? So it's about having it the emotional mastery of it, not just the cognitive mastery of it, okay? And then there's the physical when you just live it, okay? So we normally blame the event. What we should be really looking at is taking 100% responsibility and looking at yourself and saying, how could I take 100% responsibility for this outcome? So here's what I want to do, because I just decided this will be a really good exercise for you. Just turn over, you have some paper there. I want you to just pick a partner, just 2 people. And actually, here's what we can do too. Let's find out what you guys value. So here's some values. I'm going to use this. Let's find out what you guys value. Oh, I need a volunteer.
Andrew.
Happy birthday, Andrew.
Birthday boy.
Wait, I have to get
Clap
one
it
to
up for
Andrew.
Andrew for volunteering.
Sorry, man. Okay, Andrew, you're going to place this 100% responsibility on your birthday.
That's okay, I can handle that.
All right, so let's look to see what this room actually values the most. So we all value these things, right? We all value health and well-being. We all value living with passion. We all value attaining our goals. But we're going to value these differently, right? So I want to know who values living health and well-being the most. Raise your hand.
How many is that? For the people at home, how many we got? 1, 2, 3. Keep your hands up. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 people in the room. Got it.
Okay, so 8 people value this the most. Okay. How many value living with passion the most?
Hands up high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, 7.
You can't vote twice. You can only vote once.
How many people? Yeah, no, you can't vote twice. We gotta do it over. No. How many people value attaining the goals most? Attaining your
Hands
goals
up
the
high.
most.
1,
Joe,
2,
Lori,
3.
3,
Attaining goals. That's probably one of mine. I'm gonna go 4.
4. Okay.
What's yours, Lena?
I think this is mine at this point.
And
You
you guys
know,
are
it
watching at home.
changes, right? It changes. I mean, hey, you know, 3 months from now, it might be this, right? You might go from attaining goals and realize, it's not worth it. I'm gonna just live with passion. I mean, mine have changed. I've always been this. My whole story is I was an overachiever, and I misunderstood that life without, happiness is failing. Attaining my goals wasn't it. It's not attaining the goals, it's who you become from attaining the goals. So the goal is not really about the outcome, more it's about, how you showed up and what is the emotion that you experience. Because the goal is that you have attached emotion to it. So whether it's freedom, joy, happiness, whatever. So you're not really after the goal as much as you're after the emotional experience. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. So if this is what you guys value, I want you to have a partner. And we're going to do what we call responsibility stems. So we talked about how do I take 100% responsibility. I'm even just going to have the exercise where you guys just take 5% more responsibility in your life for these things. So whatever it is that you chose, your statement to your partner, I'm going to exercise this with you, Brad, as an example. The exercise is you'll turn to your partner and you'll say, if I were to take 5% more responsibility for the attainment of my goals, I would. And then the other person will respond with what theirs is. And you're going to go back and forth, and I'm going to do this for 5 minutes, and you're not going to stop. So as soon as the other person stops, you're going to go. So now what happens is your subconscious mind is going to start to tell you what it is that you should be doing. And I'll tell you that this really works because I did this with a client of mine. I do some business coaching, small groups at his business, and nobody wanted the CEO, he was a CEO, they didn't want to partner with him because the responsibility stem was about, performing at work, doing a better job at work. So nobody wanted to work, so I did it with him, and so I did my own. And it was in the winter, and at that time, something came out of my mouth that I had no idea, and it was, I would write another book. And so now, 6 months later, there's 2 that's going to be coming out this summer. Right? So your subconscious mind is going to tell you, right? So then afterwards you can jot down what it is that you said. More responsibility with living passionately. I would dance naked in front of the mirror every night.
Yes. Okay. I love it. Right on. On Facebook Live right now. Okay, so if I were to take 5% more responsibility for attaining my goals, I would start making more calls towards my blockchain investment fund. I would push that harder.
Okay. If I were to take 5% more responsibility towards living with passion, I would sing every day.
Okay. If I were to take 5% more responsibility for achieving my goals, I would set 5 more meetings with prominent Amazon sellers.
If I were to take 5% more responsibility towards living with passion, I would color more.
Okay, I love it. If I were to take 5% more responsibility towards achieving my goals, I would set the date for our next on-site event for the mastermind.
If I would take 5% more responsibility towards living with passion, I would take dancing lessons.
Okay, if I were to take 5% more responsibility for achieving my goals, I would set the date of my next marathon.
All right. Okay, so you can see. All right, you got it. So you get into a little bit of a trance there, and that's the whole point. Okay, I had no idea that stuff was going to come out. Right? Like for you too, right?
Yeah. I didn't think about a marathon today. I don't want to do it.
Right? Exactly. So that's exactly what happened to me.
I need some support on that one, brother.
Exactly. Like you don't realize what it is, and it's almost. I almost feel like you're almost guided by your higher self. And it's telling you what you are going to be doing.
And this is what we call getting in the gap, right? We all have a gap that we want to fill. You're where you're at, and where you want to go is somewhere else. And there's a lot of ways to get there, but getting in the gap is key, right? You can't live it from, on the sidelines, right? Life is not a spectator sport. You got to get in the gap. So this is a way to do that and stay accountable. And the person that you're speaking to also has things that you can keep them accountable to in this space, and then hopefully beyond when you guys continue to interact with the real world.
And it's real fun because we'd like to see 6 months from now, what you guys will follow up.
Welcome back from the break.
Welcome back from your break.
Welcome. Thank you.
The funny thing is on the break we added like 6 more people.
Yeah. Welcome all the way from Italy, Marco and Frankie. Thank you guys for coming.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome.
Perfect name.
Panji, where are you from?
Should I give the cards to them?
Originally from China, but
Okay.
now I live in Brooklyn.
Nice. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks for coming in.
We have Katya and Rule coming from.
I'm coming from Belgium.
What mastermind brings 3 people from Belgium?
Incredible.
I'm sorry.
And that reminds me of the story, guys.
Connections in Belgium.
Seriously.
And we're so informal. Like I'm like a 5-year-old. Look at this.
And this just bringing up, so I don't really prepare, and this drives Delina crazy to go in. I don't prepare, but like things will trigger me and come through me, and I just pray that I'm a vessel for what people need to hear during the experience, right? So this story's coming up for me. I feel like I need to tell it. When I was 5 years old, my mom had to leave to go support us. My dad was injured when I was 2, couldn't work anymore. He was driving a lumber truck all over Long Island, and one day he was coming down a hill, and the load shifted in the back of the lumber truck, came back through the back of the cab, and pinned him to the steering wheel. And he was crawling around, literally on a mechanic's creeper. You know those things that you use to slide under your car? For 6 months before he got surgery so he could walk again. But he was never not in pain again. So, you know, my dad went through a lot in a short amount of time, and, you know, it changed his life forever. But for me, what it meant was that mom needed to leave. And as a 5-year-old kid, I don't care who you are, when mom leaves, you think it's your fault. And you make up a story about it. So that was one thing. Also, she was very protective. When she was there, she kept me in the house a lot. So finally now that I'd done with my dad, and finally, you know, he couldn't keep up with a 5-year-old, 6-year-old. He had trouble getting around, honestly. I was left to go out and make friends in the neighborhood with the older kids who were more socialized and bigger and stronger and faster than I was. So the very first thing that happened to me on day one going to visit the neighbor kids was they thought it would be really fun to line me up against the wall and take turns kicking me in the testicles as hard as they could. Until I screamed so loud that an adult came and intervened. So why am I telling this story? I'm telling this story because at that moment, and throughout the course of my childhood, I got bullied a lot. You know, I prayed, and what I prayed for was that one day I would have friends anywhere I went. It was a very simple prayer from a very simple kid, and I didn't see much of the world at that point. But now it's really true, and I just want to say I'm grateful because that 5-year-old kid prayed for this, and here it is. And there's people from all over the world that are here today to join us.
Yeah, that's nice.
And because that kind of brings people down, that story. So I'm gonna tell a fun story. So when I was 8 years old, I used to play in the swing. Still had no friends, but at recess,
It's
at
a
8
great
years old,
story.
I would always be on the swings, you know, during recess, and the repetitive motion, you know, I think some people think I might be a little Asperger's or on the spectrum, and that's fine. I mean well, that's all that matters. I'd be on the swings, and as an adult, at 30, almost 32, my birthday's next month, when you go and hang out on the playground in your hoodie and your Ray-Bans, the adults kind of give you weird looks. Let's just say. So I was like, well, where can I find swings that, you know, adults are welcome to hang out? So I go on Google, and I'm typing in things like adult swings in my area. And I'm like, wow, this is really not what I was looking for.
Internet rookie.
Well, yeah, so I made an internet rookie mistake, and pretty much now Google thinks I'm a weirdo, and so do all of you. But I did get some new relationship choices that I can explore. And I met a lot of great people, so it worked out. And their wives. Anyway, sorry.
So the basement is all set up.
That's what this group was.
So y'all thought you were coming for personal development. But personal development comes to the anyway, Lena, take us away. Thanks so much. Coming back from the break, guys. So the exercise we just did, if you're joining at home, you might have done it too, is we talked about 3 big categories of our lives in which we'd like to improve and what's kind of the highest priority for us right now. And then we partnered up for 5 minutes and we challenged ourselves to take 5% more responsibility as a rapid fire lightning round as to what we would change in our lives. We took 5% more responsibility in the areas of well-being, passion, or attaining our goals. What would that look like? Delina and I made an example. We did 4 or 5. And now you guys spent 5 minutes doing that. So can somebody be
and
brave
20
enough?
minutes on break.
Yes. And also we had coffee and talking.
But that's what we do.
We do coffee, we talk about it. We do talk
Coffee talk.
For 5 minutes, you're going to talk about how you would take 5% more responsibility. So is anybody brave enough to share, like I shared, about something that may or may not be uncomfortable that they want accountability with?
There you go.
Martine.
All right,
Martine.
I'll do it.
Come on up.
Stand up.
Come on up. Come up to the front of the room.
Woo! Shake your
Everybody clap it up for Martine.
Let's
Let's get it over with.
Just face it. All right, here we go. For me, there are simple things, but they're important to me. So I think that's why I went with this. And also towards the end, probably to you too, it was kind of harder to come up with the things that for me was passion. I picked passion. So the first one, I think it was I like to sing. I don't sing more often, but I would like to just to write songs and sing. The second one is just write more songs, play more music, play with my kids also, just on the floor, just be a kid with my kids. I think that's very passionate. And then you make such a connection. And I don't do that often because I'm always busy, always like, now I'm on the phone or whatever. And I need to stop. And then hike. I like to connect with nature. go hiking. For me, it's just like a big deal. Just go in the mountain and just do it. Go for hours and connect with nature and probably move to a sunny place. We live in Seattle, so it's hot. But we go back to excuses, right?
Yeah.
The weather, the whatever it is.
That's right.
It's over there.
Right there.
Yeah.
The E.
The E.
So I don't know, but I still take responsibility and move to a place where I'm happy and I can have both.
That's right.
Right?
Very good.
That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Great share.
Yeah.
You do
Yeah.
it. Great share.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else want to share? All right, come on up. We have Jade. Jade from Calgary, Canada.
Okay, my list is pretty long. Laugh more, dance more, cook, like, just cook from scratch kind of
Yeah,
thing.
wow.
Running, do less but achieve more, be kind, share my purpose, be present in the moment, tell people what I feel about them.
Ooh.
If I like them or
Who
don't
got a
like
little
them.
bit of a tinge of like, don't do that. Don't tell people how you really feel.
Color more, create more, write, meditate every morning, travel more, and tell more people about my purpose.
Nice. Wait.
There you go.
All right, there you go. Oh, there's a lot of participation from this side of the room. Why don't we go to this side of the room? Anybody else want to share? In the back. Hottie, come on up.
That's my partner.
Oh, yeah. He
Thank
needs
you,
to
man.
represent.
So I choose to be well-being. I would like to add 5% on that. So basically, I will do meditate. I will think positive most of the time. I know it's not possible absolutely to be always positive, but and then I'll try to walk my talk, and then I'll exercise more every day, and I'll play with my kids, and then I'll enjoy the moment.
That's awesome.
That's so good. What a great show. All right, Andrew, birthday boy.
So one of the things that I want to be 5% more passionate about is dancing. So.
Yeah.
And then it kept coming back to like working with kids and doing stuff with kids, and I actually volunteer by teaching mentally challenged kids how to like ride horses, and I didn't do it for a little while, and I really want to get back with that, and then writing a book.
Whoa, that is awesome.
Nice.
Nice.
Those are big things.
Wow. See, that's what happened to me with the book. I had no idea that was going to come out. I didn't even want to write another book. It was work, and when it came out, and then boom, 6 months later, came true. Awesome. Oh, how excited. So we're all going to be really looking forward to seeing that. Anybody else? All right, Brenda. Totally staring you down too, right? Like, excuse me, woman, get up here.
Part of my public speaking process.
Coming all the way from Delaware.
Brenda's also part of our mastermind group.
So one was take more walks, travel, be silly with Maddie, do more retreats, and I want to host my own retreat. Write more, read more, be naked in front of my husband more.
People are accountable for that.
Yes, accountability, Joe, right here. The comments are coming through.
Yes. So that was, and just more time with Joe. Let's do that.
Nice.
So we're family time.
Great, all right. Anybody else? Come on, Brad, too.
Madison
Newman.
Brad also.
My value
Also
was
Brad.
also Brad.
Also Brad.
Also, comma Brad times 2. My value is well-being, and so if I were to add 5% more responsibility, I would hug more. I would let my family love me as they want to love me. Let it accept it. I would meditate more. pray more deliberately, and rest more. I would rest more.
Wow. That's so good.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank
You said hugs?
you.
Thank you.
So good.
Wow.
I'm saving
Thank
my
you.
I didn't remember that quite well.
Thank you.
Another achievement for this.
Oh, that was awesome.
So we attained the
All right,
goal.
Yeah,
so
attain the goal with passion. Now I feel well.
Now
Now I feel well.
You got all three. All right, did you guys find that valuable? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, right? Learned a lot about yourself. You learned a lot about just letting go, really. Letting go and allowing it to flow through, right? Okay, so that was really step one, right? Is to take 100% responsibility and to really think about what that means, what that looks like for you. So you could literally take any one of these and you can do this for yourself with a partner. It's going to be easier with a partner to go back and forth and just say, if I were to take just 5% more responsibility, what does that look like? And allow that to flow, okay? It really helps to get unstuck that way as well. When we're stuck, it's just a good way. It's almost like brainstorming. So that's step one. Step two is to really get clear on what you want and why, but to also get excited about that. So we all kind of know, be intentional, understand what you want if you want to achieve your goals. But the caveat to that I learned through my own personal journey is that you also have to be excited about something. If you're not excited about it, most likely you're not going to have enough motivation and drive to fulfill it, okay? So for step two, it's about being intentional, it's about knowing what you want, why, and does it bring you joy? Are you excited about it? Because the honest truth is that if it's really something that you want, you will become obsessed with it, right? You'll be nonstop, you'll be thinking about it every day, you'll be taking action every day, it won't feel like work. You'll be doing it, but it won't feel like work, okay? So it's gonna bring some level of joy. Yes?
Can I ask you a question
Please.
about that particular thing that you're saying about being obsessed with something?
Yeah.
I'm trying to start an online business because I want to free myself from the actual being at work, and I want to travel. I want to do all these things that I really want to do. Is it okay to get obsessed with that, to create that business that will give you the freedom to spend time with the wife, the kids, and travel, or sometimes you lose track of your main purpose because you want to get the business going, to get you going to where you want. So.
Well, what if your main purpose was the business?
I see. So
And I'll tell you that your purpose in life is something that you will experience joy from.
Okay, so it is okay to become obsessed about getting it going so you can free yourself and do the things that you want to do in order to be happy or successful or fulfill in a way, but a different level.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
Yes. Sometimes we have to give ourselves permission to do it.
It's a good way to do it.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So give yourself permission. Permission's a big deal, right? So do you see where he was stuck in his mindset right there? Is it okay? Can I do that? Am I allowed? I went through that too, right? You know why? Because I had expectations of myself. Society had expectations, family and friends. You are a physician assistant. You are successful. You have 10 years in the medical profession. This is what you do. You have a stable life, stable income. You have security and all the stability and security that I didn't have as a child growing up. So all of that were my rules. But when I gave myself permission, that's when the world opened up. So just allow yourself permission to pursue your passion. So your responsibility stem was to live more passionately. First, you've got to give yourself permission to do that. And that will open you up to experiencing it. Okay. So here's what I want us to do. Now that we understand that you have to be clear with your intention, you have to know why you want something, and you also have to be excited about it. Let's turn to page 1. We finally made it to the manual, people. Jeez. Okay. So on the welcome page here, what I want you to do is I really want you to get clarity for yourself. Why are you here? What is it that you're looking to get out of this experience today? What do you want? Why? And how will you know when you got there? So measuring is extremely important along the way, right? Not just to know what you want and why. How will you know? What's an experience that you want to experience? What's an emotion that you want to experience? And then how will you know that you're there? Because a lot of times, I went through my own journey. I actually was happy, but because I didn't have the measurement, I had always put it as something that I felt it was unattainable. So set yourself up to win. How will you know that you're experiencing it every day? Maybe it was just that hug. Right? Simple. Okay? So what do you want? What is your intention? Why do you want it? Why is it important for you? I can tell you if your why, the why is so important. If your why is not making you cry, it's not compelling enough. It's just not the why. So really dive deeper layers. So if you say, I want success. Why do I want success? I want to be successful because I want to provide freedom for my family. Why do you want to provide freedom for your family? Keep going, layers deep, at least 4. And then you'll hit the core and you'll know. Because it rocks your body.
Yeah, it's the thing that makes you uncomfortable. It makes you cry. It makes it's painful.
You feel
It's
it.
the thing that's the real reason under the reasons that we tell ourselves all the time. I've had a few clients over the years where I would train them on sales, and we would do these sales calls. This is a real quick story. Where we'd say, go deep until you find the why. And one of them had a client that was a fitness trainer. I work with another mastermind called the Roman Fitness Mastermind. It's my friend John Romanelli helped me launch Make More Marbles. If you guys have ever been to my site, he's on the homepage, the videos that we do together. So Roman had a client who I was also coaching on sales, that he had this lady come on and he was asking her about her why. And at first she was like, oh, I really love to lose 10 pounds. Okay, well, why do you want to lose 10 pounds? Well, I just want to feel better. Okay, well, why do you want to feel better? Oh, I've just been in a funk lately. Why are you in a funk lately? Oh, because my relationship with my husband isn't as good as it used to be. So how does this relate to your weight? Oh, well, actually, let me tell you, I was at the beach recently, and I was in my bikini, and I saw him looking at another girl who looked better in her bikini, and I'm like, well, forget her, I'm going to look better than she is, and that was the real reason why. I was like, oh my God, I want to look good for my husband.
Yeah.
I want him to look at me like he used to.
Yeah.
And that was the reason I was going to move mountains, not I want to lose 10 pounds, because who cares, right? 10 pounds is an arbitrary number. There's no feeling behind that. There's no meaning behind that. But when you have that story, you know how to lead yourself because you care about it enough, and there's no judgment or right or wrong about it. When you know how to lead yourself, that's where everything starts to open up. Because if you can lead yourself, you can lead others, you can expand your vision. And vision is really what unites us as humans in creating.
Tony always says you don't get your shoulds, you get your musts. Right? So we all should eat healthy, we all should lose a little weight, but the must you will get. So why must you get what it is that you write down, right? So really think in that way. You don't get your shoulds, you never will. I mean, you will maybe make progress towards that for a short period of time, but you'll eventually go back to your habits. Okay, so really get intentional and think about the why that is going to cause you to implement and to really make that goal and come into fruition.
Clear on their why, and can we drill deeper into it to really find the why under the why? Anybody want to go? Anybody want to be brave enough to stand here in the space with me, in the gap, and really get to the core of who you are as a person and what drives you? I don't know. Have you shared yet? Let's just open it up in case anybody else wants to share hasn't shared yet. There's somebody who is resisting, and it will persist until you stop resisting. I promise.
Yeah. Wasn't that Oscar Wilde who said
what do you
the
resist?
best way to give into temptation, the best way to get rid of temptation is to give into it.
Sounds good. I'll go with it. I like Oscar Wilde. He was a pretty smart guy. I don't know that quote though. Thank you. Are you clear on your why?
Sort of.
Okay. What do you think your why is right now? What's coming up to you in this exercise? Well, let's relate it to a goal. So what is a big, hairy challenge or thing you're trying to do in your life or accomplish or create?
Time freedom.
Okay, time freedom.
But I wanted to do the things I want to do.
So you have the freedom to do what you want to do, where you want to do it, when you want to do it, with whom you want to do it, as much as you want to do it?
Sort of.
Okay, what would be different about what I just said compared to what feels real to you?
I want to be able to just wake up when I want. I want to, most of the time, I want to be left alone.
Why don't you stand up so everybody can see and hear you?
Yeah. So most of the time, I wanna be left alone and read stuff, and then maybe write a bit in the afternoon.
Okay.
And do a workout and be outside in the sun and walk on grass. As opposed to the society corporate stuff, which basically is what I'm doing now. It's sort of the corporate job thing. And that's sort of why I'm here. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to, first of all, meet everyone, and Brandon and everyone, and then get some brainstorming going on how to achieve this life that you want.
Got it. So what's coming up for you is really, I want to have control over my time so that I can do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. And that might be waking up on, without an alarm. That might be reading in the morning, journaling, writing, going out for a walk in the park, getting your feet in the grass. Is that creating a vision?
Yeah.
All right.
Again.
And then from that space, maybe create something new.
Yeah, because then I'll have the time and energy to create something new. For example, I would want to, because I have 6 weeks of home time from work, and there's a lot more coming, and I want to also write something so I can actually share stuff that I learned.
Okay.
So it's not just I'll read stuff because that's fun and it's for me, but really the serving aspect is something I want to get into it as well. So
Serving others.
yeah.
Okay, so you want to have the space to create and serve others as well.
Yeah.
And what is not that? So what is the thing that is painful right now that you're experiencing that we can create kind of where you're at and where you want to go?
Yeah,
Right?
where I'm at is, so it's sort of the corporate job thing. You wake up, go to work, and then you have some time available. But right now it's 10 hours a day, and then there's not enough free time for me because I need time alone to recharge instead of being the extrovert that recharges in groups.
Got it.
But thanks to this weird hour schedule at work, I get free time this part, the second part of the year, which I can use to figure out how to get out of this situation and figure more out on how I can actually get to where I want to go.
Okay. And who else can relate to this, by the way? Because we've all had jobs before, right? I've had a ton of jobs over the years. I'm pretty much unemployable at this point. I'm a horrible employee. But, we've all had that job that kind of saps your time, right? You be here on time, you got to do it this way. You got to go back and fix it if it's not right. You stay late, you come in early, and you don't always see the recognition. You don't always feel like you're really valued in that space. Is that
the value thing.
Yeah. But
it's like you're underutilized in your capabilities.
Yeah, who can feel that? Underutilized, undervalued by your peers or superior. So what's the reason, what's the why that's going to drive you to go from where you are today to where you want to be? Having that time freedom that you crave and creating the things and serving the people you want to serve.
Gosh, well-being, passion, it's a fulfillment, it's sort of the fulfillment of life thing, in that if I can get out of this treadmill, that I can create better work, and then it'll be fulfilling not just for me but for others as well.
So if we could make one mantra or statement or affirmation out of that feeling, right? If we could put words to it that would resonate with you, or a why that's so deep that's going to drive you. Every time you say it, you're just present to it. It's just there, right there in that space, and it's going to spur you along. What would that be to you?
We had, there's two things, while Delina was talking, we had knowledge, and the other one doesn't come to mind anymore, which is frustrating. And I also find it difficult to put words to feelings, because that's why
I can tell this is hard work.
Yeah, that's why
you're in the gap right now.
That's why they're feelings, because that intuition thing, it doesn't, in your mind, it doesn't work on talking.
Yeah.
And so I think I like the knowledge part because of the, I'm totally input. I collect information.
No, I get it, and you like to kind of recharge and do your thing on your own. It'll become really clear when you're doing that. But then in this space, this might be a little uncomfortable, right? This is not your natural flow. Where I like to talk about things out loud, right? I work things out loud. If you're on my team, I work things out loud.
He's got great stories on being loud.
We've got a few, we've had a few experiences like that before. what would be something you could really commit to in the next few days over, when you have some alone time, to getting down on paper? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What is your why that's going to drive you from A to B? We're really clear on what the gap is right now. Right? It's having that time and space to create and serve and not be in that corporate role all the time. So there's your gap. Now what's the vehicle, right? Or a better analogy is not the vehicle, right? That could be walking, bike. We'd love for you to take the private jet of getting to where you want to go. But what's the fuel, man? Like, what are we putting in the tank? That's what you want to really get present to, is like, hey, I've got the fuel. I know it, right? I have a saying, like, if you ever worked with me before, I'll say something like, I don't light fires in people. I can't light a fire in you. That's not up to me, right? I can give you all the tools. It's what you do with the tools that matters, right? So I always say, I can't light a fire in you, but once you have a fire lit, I can throw gasoline on that thing all day, right? And in doing so, you light up the world, right? You start glowing a little brighter, and then other people have permission to shine, other people have permission to shine. And it's these little domino effects, these little ripple effects that go on into eternity. You don't see where they end up, but 5 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, y'all are going to be out there stepping up and leading at a higher level because somebody else shone before you, right? They showed you as possible, or maybe you decided it was possible one day. Or for whatever reason, something shifted you enough where now you are where you are. So that's what we're looking for here. So that's what I'm going to challenge you to do, is spend some time when you're in your zone of genius, which is the exact opposite of mine. So we'll talk about wealth dynamics in a little while, but if you guys aren't familiar, they're basically different types of people and personalities, right? And there's all kinds of tests. This one specifically relates to entrepreneurship and creation. And I got it actually right there. I'll just show you real quick. So we have 8 types, and I am all the way on this side. Mega extroverted, love people. And Sten is all the way on this side. Introverted, Lord, systems, process.
You starting your presentation?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not yet. But I just want to give this quick example. This is why this stuff's important, because what's going to work for me is not going to necessarily work for Sten and vice versa. Right? So knowing who you are and what your strengths are, not trying to fit yourself in the Delina box or the Brad box or anybody else's box for that matter, but really getting present to who you are is going to make the difference between failure and success in this life. Am I right?
Yeah.
How many people have failed because they're trying to be somebody they're not?
My God.
How many people have failed multiple times because they're trying to be somebody they're not? How important is this, guys? If we can just get who we are and have that clear, what does that help us create in this world? Anything we want. All right.
I love it. You guys did your shares?
Yep.
Okay, everyone's clear on what they want, why.
Is anybody else unclear on a why, or anyone else want to
Or anyone need
workshop
help on it?
Anybody who likes to work out loud, that wants to work with me, I can do private as well. We can step inside and do that. But I don't want to take too much time, so go right ahead.
Okay, cool. So now that we did that, okay, so there's 2 things that influence our thinking and our behavior, right? Our emotions, really, because our thinking, when you have an emotional experience or when you're experiencing emotion, you have to reverse engineer that and think, what was I thinking? What was I focused on? Because your emotional state all depends on your mindset. Whatever it is that you were thinking at that moment is what you're going to experience and feel. So the 2 things that affect your emotions and your thinking and your behavior are your blueprint and your state. Okay, and your blueprint is really composed of your values, your expectations, your beliefs, and your rules. So just to give you an example, I have a client, Jeremy, and he had said to me, came to a call and he said, I'm not feeling successful, and I said, why? And meanwhile, he already has a very successful 6-figure photography business with his own studio in downtown San Francisco. He's married with a child. I mean, on paper, pretty successful, right? Sounds kind of like how I was, pretty successful on paper. Checklist life, check, check, check. So why don't you feel successful? What's missing? He said, I'm feeling a lack of motivation and inspiration to follow through. Who can relate to this? Right? Me too. So I thought, oh, this is going to be good for both of us. Yeah. As a coach, sometimes you're coaching your client, but your client will actually show up and mirror image what is also missing for yourself. So it's a great opportunity in that moment to experience what you need as well. So I said, okay, great. So what needs to happen for you to feel that you're motivated and inspired to follow through? And he said, I need to be disciplined every day. That makes sense. I need to be disciplined. So what does that look like? And he told me, well, if I woke up every morning and I made my bed and I meditated and I exercised and I read something empowering and then I went through my emails and I did all of these checklist things in the morning before I started work, I would feel disciplined because at that point I would know that I was empowered and I make better decisions. Okay, let's all now be a little bit of coaches. Okay, and let's put on our little detective hats and let's think about this for a second. I just said that we're influenced by our blueprint. So what did he value? Our blueprint is our values, our rules, our expectations, and our beliefs. What did this man value the most? What?
Structure. So he's looking.
Okay, structure, good. What else? What does Jeremy value the most?
Like he was in control, that he somehow had everything, certainty.
Certainty, good. Very good. Checklist, good. Kind of achieving, right? What else?
I think they kind of himself, because all those things were for him.
Yes, all those things were for him. Anything else?
I heard how he felt.
Okay, how did he feel?
Well, he was like, I don't feel this way. So that was what he wanted.
That's what he wanted?
Feel some other way.
Right, he wanted to feel disciplined, right? Okay, good, yeah. Marco. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he had a lot of rules of what that looked like. So now, good job guys, because that's all of that is 100% correct. Now, when you have all those rules to experience that, what is the challenge?
You have to hit all those rules in order to feel a certain way.
And as soon as
It's
you
too
miss
much.
one, you screw up.
Yeah.
And then you're a failure.
Then you're a failure.
Life gets in the way.
Plus
Like-
you saying every single day. If
Every
you do it
day.
if you ever set a goal for yourself that every single day, the day you miss it is the day you write this script in your head that you're a failure.
There you go.
Can't do that to yourself.
There you go.
He's setting himself up for failure.
He wasn't setting himself up to win, he was setting himself up to fail. So now you have a belief about yourself, identity beliefs, I'm not disciplined enough. He values success, being the best version of himself, right? He values structure, everything that you guys said, right? And he has all these rules that are not setting him up to win.
Got a comment from Frank in the back?
Yeah, it's either, I do almost, the same, and you are perfectly aware that you're actually failing on a single day, and it's even worse, because it generates even more stress, and it's even worse, it's a cycle.
So you're saying it compounds and it's a cycle that just keeps going and going. And I'll repeat in case there's something in the back so that everybody can hear. Yeah, these things, they pile up, right? One thing leads to another thing, leads to another thing, and all of a sudden you have all this evidence for why you suck. Why you're not good enough. Why you're a failure now and you'll probably always be a failure.
Stacked experiences.
Yeah. And the pain gets worse and worse and worse, but in reality it's just a story.
Yeah.
Isn't this because he can't be himself, like Brad said, we should be more ourselves? Because he has other...
If he was more self-accepting,
But-
yeah, that's one of it, right? That's one part,
But
that's
he
an
can't be
identity.
himself because of external factors as well, because he has some responsibilities and he wants to do certain things in life.
Mhm.
And some of them just happen to be daily practices, like it's just a habit.
Mhm.
And if he prioritizes the external ones, he does them first, like going to work, and then he wants to tag on all the things he feels are him.
Mhm.
He'll fail because his energy is drained by the end of the day, and that's why he wants to do it before work, because then it's like, oh, I feel accomplished now, because he can actually do all those things.
Mhm. Yeah.
So he's in a way he's misaligned with who he really is, and letting the environment play a role in that.
And letting himself get in his own way. Because he is saying that he needs to do all of these things before he could feel disciplined enough to feel successful.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I want you to do is think about your own rules. So what has to happen for you to feel successful? Write down just a couple of things. What has to happen? What are your rules? And like really think about, well, we'll actually look at that later, but really be honest with yourself. What has to happen for you to feel successful?
How many yachts must you water ski behind?
That'd be
Oh, there he is.
How many yachts do you have to water ski behind?
Wouldn't that be
How much is enough, Gecko?
Hi Kyle, welcome. Kyle, Kyle, you want to get one of these pamphlets here up front and a
If
pen.
somebody could grab one for him. Thank you. You got the best seat in the house here, Stan.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's
seriously.
because I'm the grandfather now.
He's the grandfather in the mastermind.
You never know where I'm going to strike.
No, we have to write down the things that,
Your rules for feeling successful.
okay, nothing with your purpose in life. but
No.
the things that we
Just-
do every day, just
I was
do.
just gonna say
To feel successful every day,
Okay.
yeah.
You get to.
But maybe is, okay, so by the way, my rule of feeling successful is to live my purpose in life.
Okay.
So do you see? So it can,
It can be,
Yeah.
if you're at that stage.
eggs,
But
yes.
if you're not there,
Yes, it
Yeah,
is
but
But
wherever
you hear
you're
that
at.
language though. If
Yes.
you're at that stage, as if you were not at that stage, why can't you wake up today and say, I'm where I need to be, I'm exactly
That's
what
a
I need to
permission
know?
thing, yeah.
Yeah. Right? So you see how it comes up, and we're always reinforcing our
Our old
permissions or our
thinking.
goals or whatever the thinking
Your
that's
old
currently.
thinking is going to produce the
Yeah.
same results. You've got to change. You've become something. Who you were before you stepped into this house is not who you are sitting in this moment right
Yes.
now. Every present moment is shifting you.
And I'll use an analogy for that. You guys ever heard the saying, a man can never step in the same river twice because it's not the same river and it's not the same man. Right?
I never heard that before.
Every single thing that happens to us, every breath we take, every move we make, there's only one moment, that's
Right.
right now. Right
Yeah,
now,
oh, okay.
right now, and it's
I've
never
never seen
again,
it.
right? So, when you make a decision in this moment, right now, to make a change, you're making it for every moment moving forward.
That's right.
And none of the moments that precluded it need to influence it. They can, but they don't need to. And that's what we want you guys to really come away with, is just this sense of possibility in this moment, right now, to create something new. Provided that's what you want, right? Maybe things are going great. And we don't want to set the intention that everything is a problem or a challenge. One of the lies of personal development is that something's always wrong, right? Everybody wants to tell you what's wrong with you.
Right.
I think most things, 90% of the time, are going just fine. And then there's always that little 5%, 10% we live in. It's like, oh, this could be better, that could be better.
And then how do you take 100% responsibility in your life
Right.
for that?
But if you have all these browser tabs open saying that everything's wrong all the time and running on a loop the story over and over again, how are you ever going to have the bandwidth? How are you going to create the space to really work on the things that you do want to shift and get the momentum that you want to get? So I use the 1% rule. Oh, good question.
So I do have one input, like what you can add with the age, you know, I'm not there yet, or I.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right, right. And that's in intention that you're going to be getting there, right? Absolutely. Progress is happiness,
Yeah.
right? Just making that.
And some people think in terms of math, right? I come from a financial background, right? I ran a hedge fund. 1% doesn't seem like a lot, right? If you get 1% better, can everybody commit to 1%? Right? It would be
Yeah.
easy. Now, what happens if you just commit to getting 1% better each day for a year? At the end of a year, are you 365% better? No, you're already shaking your head, right? You already know where I'm going with this. You're compounding every single day, 1%, 1%, 1%. And it looks like if you looked at a curve, if this is plotted out on a y and x axis, it would look like not a whole lot was happening for a while. But do you know that after 1 year, 365, so it's 1% to the 365th power, you're 3,778% better. So 38 times where you started. From just 1% a day. That compounding effect over a year, it's a hockey stick growth. It's exponential growth. So can you commit to being 1% better at something, using these tools that we're giving you,
Mm-hmm.
and see the results, and just trust
Even
that
if you
it'll
just took one thing, right?
Yeah.
The last way that you can set yourself up to win is to take your rules and to not stack them as this plus this plus this, but you use the word anytime. So it could be anytime I, or anytime I, or anytime I. So now take a look at those rules, and now you create a paragraph, and I want you to rewrite your paragraph and rewrite your rules to set yourself up to win. And now if you said this every day, that is going to be a whole different experience for you. A whole way of living, a whole way of mindset that will inspire you, that will motivate you, that's gonna get the traction you need and the momentum you need, right? Instead of, you're waking up, you know, really setting yourself up to fail. This is a waking up and setting yourself up to win.
Also, if you got 3,778% in the stock market on any amount of money, that'd be a pretty good year. Just saying.
All right, so everybody rewrite their rules, and then this is something that you should review every day. So it's the rule, anytime, 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 okay? Any questions on that? Anybody want to share?
I notice it being, the difference is setting an intention versus setting an expectation.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Drop the expectations.
Yeah.
Live in the intention.
Live in the intention. And doesn't that just even feel better?
Just feels
Oh,
lighter, yeah.
Gosh.
For sure.
Letting that go.
These are minor shifts, but everything we create is created in language.
You just got to, see, that's what we call a breakthrough,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes we
got
think
that,
a breakthrough is going to be big, in this massive thing. If you were at a Tony event right now, people would be like, ah! And I was sure to give them a clap, right? Because honestly, like, that was big shift for you. And I sense that. So watch how you change.
Yeah.
Your behavior changes, what you do change just with that aha moment that you just had.
I find that some of the things that make me successful is not anything I'm really progressing to, but it's more like it's a way of being. Like
Yeah.
It's like I feel successful when I, like in every interaction, I'm like kind and compassionate, respect people.
Beautiful.
So to me, that makes me feel successful. It's just my way of being.
Yes.
So I'm not really progressing to anything, but.
That's a better way to be. So you're at a level understanding the ego wants us to do more, be more, have more. The spirit wants us to just be. And the spirit wants us to just be because if we're just being, then we can radiate that out.
Right.
And then we're living our purpose in life.
Right.
Once you're being, doing, and having, and giving become more effortless.
Right.
Life is effortless. Life is easy. So it's about getting in that flow and understanding and self-accepting yourself as just being.
Yeah, because that to me is successful. It's just.
It's getting to that place, though, of understanding and self-accepting. And look, so one of the exercises that I need to do for myself when I was trying to accept myself is look at myself in the mirror. This is not an easy exercise. It's called the mirror exercise. If you struggle with confidence and you struggle with self-acceptance, look yourself in the mirror every morning. And please write this down. This is real good. And say, I appreciate you for. And then you're going to say anything that you've made progress on for the day. Or any temptation that you did not give in to. Right? I forgot the other one.
Temptation.
Did I tell you this once? I told you this once, yes.
Yeah. Temptation.
I appreciate you for anything I've achieved. Anything anything I've overcome, temptations I've overcome. And the last one,
What was it?
no, like there's three. It'll come to me, and then I'm just gonna blurt it out.
Appreciate you, temptation.
Anything
I love
I've
you.
overcome.
I love you.
Yeah, and at the end you say, thank you, I love you.
Isn't that a prayer?
So I love you, yeah, so you wanna look yourself in the eye and say that, though. You wanna make sure that you're connecting with your soul. Okay?
Hey, I want to add something to what you just said. I was having a shower, I was taking a shower the other day, and I play soccer. I like to move. I like to run, and I always think of what if, God forbid, I lose my legs or whatever. But how many times do you take the time to take care of your body?
Oh, yeah.
In ways or so I was taking a shower. I'm just gonna tell you. I was taking a shower and then I look at myself in the shower and I was telling my own body, this is crazy. This is nuts. Probably no. That I was thanking my body for being the way it is, that I can run, that I can do things with my hand, that I can speak, that I can see, that I can. It's something that I never felt before, so I don't know what it is. I just felt it, and I started to say thank you to
So powerful.
Crazy stuff.
No, it's so powerful.
Yeah, not
You know,
crazy at all.
there's
Not crazy.
So-
That's
You're
actually,
connected to
that's
you,
how we
like
should be, right?
Great.
So for everybody who might not be able to
Grateful
hear in the back, he had an experience in the shower the other day where he was grateful and appreciative of his body and his ability to run and play soccer and things he wanted to do. And we find that as we appreciate things, they appreciate. And a grateful heart is like a magnet for miracles. Am I right? I mean, when you're more
Yes.
grateful, doesn't more come into your
Oh,
life
gosh,
in all
yeah.
ways? So just sharing that gratitude and appreciation of yourself forms the habit of doing it consistently, and the results are incredible. Just so many gifts from that.
Nice.
And again, I'll pass the messages back and forth if there's, we do our best with the state.
I would like to share my personal story. Like, I was born and raised in back Nepal. So, I was born in the countryside. So my father he was very smart. So he was a farmer. So he used to always point on my positive things. Like I know there were other kids, even my siblings. So my father always used to focus on like, he always study, he do not go to other place, he has his work, he has good friends. So I had always on my mind, so whenever I have time, or if I feel, or if I do not feel in the beginning, I need to sit and study, because that's what my father loved. So if I do other wrong things, he does not focus, but if I study, he says always like, he always study, he has good friends, and he helped me. So that saved me honestly. Like, I don't think I was like that motivated to study in the beginning, and then to help him always. But like as he told one person, next person, and next person, that was real to me. And then that's how I developed and helped me a lot.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's a great share, and that's kind of goes against the grain, right? A lot of parents scold their children. They say, "Oh, you aren't doing this, you aren't doing that," and they learn that they always have to be better and good enough.
Or do more, like they're not enough.
Yeah,
right?
you're
so
not
the
enough.
Two fears. Everybody knows the two most limiting fears that we all have. The first one is that we're not enough.
Right.
And then if we're not enough, then we won't be loved. Right? Those are the two most limiting fears. You could take every fear, and if you chunk that down, it's all going to go to that root problem.
So parents in the room, how many parents we got? I'm going to go with maybe baby. I'm pretty sure I'm a parent.
Oh.
Oh, nobody has a maybe baby? All right. Whatever.
No judgment.
So what if you praised your children for the things they did right instead of scolding them for the things they did wrong? Right? Do things get stronger if we pay more attention to them?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. So why don't we put the energy into the things we want and not the things that we don't want? Thank you for that share. It's an awesome share.
Yeah,
Thank
it really
you.
was. Thank
Really,
you.
really good. Thank you. Clap it up. And guys, don't be afraid to share, because even if you think it's trivial or something that may or may not add value to the room, there's somebody in this room that needs to hear it. I promise you that.
Yeah.
There's somebody on Facebook that needs to hear
Yeah.
it. There's somebody in this world that needs your story, your gift to help them shift.
The healing comes when you share too for yourself.
Yeah.
When you open yourself up, because you're experiencing that love back and you're giving love out. So, yeah, beautiful. Thank you guys. All right, so everyone's kind of changed their rules. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, Dina. Oh, I forgot. Yes, please. Please
One
share.
of my major rules I battle with is that I need to, because I'm so goal-oriented, I need to have all my tasks and work and everything done in order for me to enjoy life. And they're never done.
Right.
They're never done. And
So how did you change your rules? Let's hear how you
So
changed
then I
them.
changed my, well, when you brought up the I appreciate you, that's a really good thing to do. Appreciate you for what I have gotten accomplished. And I need to choose to do something that I enjoy every day and celebrate progress that I've made towards my goals.
Beautiful.
Instead of thinking I have to do this, I have to do this.
Yeah,
To
celebrate even the
celebrate
small things.
the small things, and I need to really learn to celebrate the
Yeah.
small things.
Yeah.
That comes back to the word anytime for me.
That's right. Anytime is key.
When Delina just gave me the gift of anytime, and thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Because the word anytime allows me to take celebration in the fact that I may not have $1 million in my anytime I make more money that gets me closer to that, I can be proud of the work that I've done.
Yeah.
Which then allows me to further myself. And the other one is anytime I get praise or recognition, because that's one of my big things, praise and recognition. Anytime I get praise and recognition, I can accept that praise and recognition.
Oh, that's
the way that it
big.
comes.
Okay, break row! Were you guys able to hear him in the back?
Thank you for sharing.
Anytime he receives praise and recognition, right? To receive, because a lot of us are not receiving.
How many givers, how many martyrs do we have that give,
Yes,
give, and never receive?
Right?
All right, how many takers we have? Come on, takers. Any takers in the room? Nobody's a taker? We got one taker. Any hand raisers? You guys want to learn the key? It's not either one. That's only what you should do. We're supposed to give and receive abundance.
Yeah, the martyr.
We gotta walk that line, right? It's giving and receiving. Without both, then we're not living in abundance. That's what I call the abundant line. You're not a miser, you're not a martyr, you're walking that line.
No.
And it's a virtuous cycle. Growth and contribution. We're gonna learn about this weekend. Is everybody excited for Tony, by the way?
Right?
Holy crap!
That's gonna be awesome.
I can't wait to see your worlds rocked and blown wide open. It's gonna be so awesome.
We're giving you the nuggets, but he's gonna give you like
the
right?
experience,
the
the show, the
everything.
music, the
We're giving
energy,
you
the
nuggets.
people.
Yeah.
This is like baby town compared to what you're about to experience. This is awesome.
Big
town. Baby town. This is
We
like
don't have the Prudential Center and all the sounds.
our production quality is a little bit lower budget.
That's probably the key.
Still good.
Good
Still
stuff,
make
good
shifts in
stuff. Okay, so you guys change your roles. Second thing that affects and influences our thinking and our behavior is our state, okay? So, speaking of Tony, he's a master of state. I mean, ultimately, right, his presence, you feel empowered because he's empowered, right? You feel strong because he's unstoppable, so that radiates out. But he's got a method, right? So he doesn't wake up feeling that way. Before he goes on stage, he does a routine every day, right? So our state is really the emotional state that what we're experiencing in that moment. So there's positive emotions and there's negative emotions. What I want you to do is I want you to write down in 1 week, on average, what are the positive emotions that you experience, what are the negative emotions that you experience. And be true to yourself. You know, if you go into anger, write that down. If you go to victim, write that down. Really get clear now, where do you go? Yes, Jake.
One thing that I kind of had like a little bit of an aha moment. But like every 6 months, I basically kind of do like a scan of all my friends and my relationship with them. And so I always ask the question like, does this relationship serve me? Am I getting what I need out of it? And is it making me feel good? So when we were talking about emotion, I was like, oh, I noticed when the friends I do let go, I actually get agitated or frustrated, or I start talking about them more often to just, other people, and then I start to kind of eliminate them from my life.
Right.
So I never recognized the emotion part of it. Like I've always said, oh, does it make me feel good? But I never really associate the, I'm gonna guess, negative emotion that I get from that relationship.
Yeah.
So
So how will this help you now, having that measurement? Because measurement is really important. How does that shift for you, knowing that? What will that do for you now?
Oh, it's just like a whole, weight off. Because I think it's just like you have this feeling of you want to be liked by everyone, and everyone
there you
is
go.
liked by everyone,
Yeah.
right? So
there you
some
go.
days where I'm like, I don't really freaking care, but then there's some days I guess I do care.
Yeah.
So so that was kind of like my.
Good, nice. There's your break. Anybody else? Okay, so you guys have, yes, Angelique.
So, whenever I feel something negative, there's a couple of things that I do. First of all, I shift my perspective on how I see the situation. So I change my perspective and I see it as an opportunity. So on how I can learn and grow from it rather than seeing it as a negative. And I also see it as an opportunity to practice my patience and tolerance. So if I'm in an anxious situation, then I see that as an opportunity on this is making me anxious. Now, how can I use this to my benefit to practice my patience and my tolerance? So I see it as a growing opportunity in that area. The other thing is that the one statement that I wanted to share that I just read recently that I just really loved was, whenever you see, like, or in a negative situation or suffering of any kind, even if you're with someone, you know, and they're suffering, like, you always find, what's helped me is I find purpose and meaning in that, and then I thrive from that. So the statement is, find purpose and meaning in the suffering and thrive.
Nice.
So I don't know, I just love that. So for me, like any negative situation or any, I try to find that meaning in it. Like, what is the meaning of this, and how am I gonna grow from this? You know, what's the opportunity here?
Yeah.
You know, so,
yeah.
I mean, how can I thrive from that?
That's right. Great. Good. Yeah, that's great. Yes.
You know, whenever I'm negative, I use power pose.
Power pose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm like, I feel a little bit low or negative, I just shrink down like, and then I immediately realize now. So I just either, if I'm sitting, I just hard to get up immediately. But if I'm sitting, I do like this.
Yeah. Oh, that's important for men. If you just men that do this and open up their chest.
And then if I can stand up, I just stand up and then I do like this.
Yeah. I am a superhero, honey. That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And it makes you feel good. How about we all take a try and do honey? Yeah. It's all stand up, and he kind of went like this, and then he went like this.
Very nice.
Very nice, honey. It's absolutely real. It works, right? Doesn't that feel better? Doesn't everybody feel like they can fly now? Okay, so this is a good tool. Yes? We're going to use it. Yes? All right, good. Any questions about it?
Mine now.
Okay. We even have a section here that you can write. Okay, so there are positive ways that you can change your state. Here on this form here, I want you to write the negative ways you actually change your state, so that you also have the awareness, because we go to social media, we go to food, we start arguments with people, we use alcohol, we go to television. I need you to recognize where you go, your habits, okay? In order to shift something, you've got to have awareness first. So we wrote down the positive ways that you're going to go to when you do your state check, but I need you to identify when your negative ways, because then when you go to do it, when you go to social media, you need to reverse engineer it and say, why am I doing this? What is it that I'm really, where am I struggling? Okay? So just take a quick moment.
If you can just create the space, we talked about this earlier. You know, there's a great Viktor Frankl quote. Has anybody ever read Man's Search for Meaning? Yeah, great book, timeless classic. Viktor Frankl, in case you don't know, was a Nazi concentration camp survivor. And he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And he's asking the pivotal question, why did some people survive the concentration camps and some people didn't? Well, what he came to was a sense of purpose, but also he had a great quote, and it was that it's not what happens to us that makes the difference. It's this E plus R equals O idea, right? But the way he put it was, in between a stimulus and a response, there is a space. And it's what we choose to do with that space, the presence, the awareness we bring to it that makes the difference in the outcome. So he could have chosen to give up and not made it out alive. He could have made that choice at any moment in any day when he was starving and hungry and cold and literally being starved of life. But he chose not to, and he survived. And so many others didn't. So then that's a choice that's luckily not as dire in most of our lives, but we can still use that same methodology of just creating that space of when we get present to why am I feeling this way, or what need am I feeling right now, what's triggering me. Creating that space to ask that question is the work. And then choosing how to respond in that moment creates that new outcome that we all want. And if we don't love our reality right now, we have to go back to how we're acting. And we got to take 100% responsibility for what we're creating in that space, in between stimulus and response. Yes? It's called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Great book. It's short too, you can read it in an hour.
Adi.
What Brad said is like very important in everyday life.
Yeah.
Like when you work, like you get 10 calls and there are lots of other frustrated people, how they react, right?
Yep.
And then if you become like them, they'll it will just fire off.
That's right.
So whenever I get like probably 10 calls at the same time and they are frustrated, I just sit down and I tell them, please sit down.
Yeah.
Because that will create a little bit of stress with that one. And so what is the real problem here, right? And then, so what we are going to do. And I usually ask them like, what you want me to do. And then their stress and all emotions just come down to 50%. Just by asking what you want me to do, you know. And then you respond and then ask them what is important for them and what I feel important. And then I think most of the time, honestly, when in the workplace, when I have this situation, a lot of time I get like from other person, they cannot handle it. You want to switch with me, you know, I said that's fine. That happened like just yesterday all. There was one provider seeing one person and then refused to see him. And then he wanted to switch with me. I said that's okay. So I took a little bit space, give around 2 to 3 minutes before talking because that time might be at the peak state with negative emotion, right? So I went after 5 minutes and then I sat down. And I asked like, what happened? And then the moment she was telling like her emotion was way down, and then the next my question was like, how can I help you? You know, and then at the end she was happy in 10 minutes.
It's amazing what there's so much power in presence and listening, and how you can take somebody out of their negative state and you can help them transfer and move up that meter just by you being a vessel for them. Just listening, right, and letting them.
And offering like,
how can I help? How can I serve you? Yeah. So, okay.
We're not quite into the mastermind session yet. I still want to know off right now.
Okay, great. So I'm going to quickly run through the last pieces of my presentation. The Brad's going to talk about welcome now. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
We want to keep this moving, keep this interesting to you guys.
We have you guys. We want you guys to mastermind too.
As well, yeah.
One of the things, talking a lot about state. One of the things that I wanted to mention, Angela, you talked about your blueprint a little bit, your life conditions just recently, and it reminded me to mention that when your life conditions do not match your blueprint, what did we say the blueprint was? Your blueprint is really what you value, what you believe, what your rules are, your expectations, right? If your life conditions are not matching that, meaning your blueprint for life, you will be unhappy. Right. If they do match, you will be happy. If you feel that you are out of control of the life conditions or changing your life conditions, you will suffer. Right. To that level of suffering, when you don't feel you have control of changing the life conditions. So, one of the things you want to remember is that you take 100% responsibility. The only thing that you can manage and control is your own state. Your own thoughts, your own behavior, your own mindset. One of the biggest tools to do that is what we call the triad. Okay, everyone draw a square on a blank piece of paper. The triad is at the base physiology, focus, and language and meaning. That's what makes up the triad. Tony's going to go over this a lot. The first day of UPW is all about this.
Yeah, so we don't want to beat it up too hard,
No.
but basically it's 3 things, right? And just plain English is what are you doing with your body? What are you focusing on? And what are you saying to yourself and others? That's what creates your emotional state acutely in this moment, but also over time. As we go through life, we tend to reinforce our habits. So if you ever want to change the way you're feeling, and ultimately change the way you feel as a default, so you wake up feeling good, you got to change what you're doing with your body. That's where it starts. And then you change what you're focusing on. And then you change what you're saying to yourself.
The quickest way is to change your body, to change your physiology. You want to change your state, the quickest way is just to move your body, get up and walk. That's why a lot of times at the event, he has us getting up and down and shaking, things like that, shake the building. Because now you're on fire, right? So you do even just a stretch, even when Hadi said to do this, that's big. So if you were to put your shoulders back, a 2 millimeter shift of just putting your sternum, chin up, shoulders back, 2 millimeters makes the world of a difference. Okay? From this place, it's much more empowering. You have a lot more clarity. You're going to receive more information than if you were kind of hunched over like this. Okay? So Physiology Focus, what are you focusing on? Do you focus on what's missing or what you have? Are you focused on the past, the present, or the future? Are you focusing on what you can control or what you can't control? Really think about where you go, okay? And language and meaning, right? So what are you saying to yourself? What's the meaning you're putting to that? It's the meaning that you put to something. That's going to completely change your state. And when you are in a disempowered state, so I want everyone to have that triangle, and you guys all know where you go. Yes. Sure, okay. So I'm going to take this, so the disempowered state, and maybe we could hang this back over here. Somebody, oh, you want to, Angela wants
She wants
to
those cards, she wants those chakra cards. Yeah.
Okay. So just hang up there. So if you're in a disempowered state, you're going to have a disempowered identity. That identity is going to make poor choices. You're not going to have good focus, right? You're going to have bad habits, right? So the result of being a disempowered state is that it's going to affect everything here in your life, right? You're not going to be responsive. You're going to be reactive. You're not going to focus. Poor decisions, poor emotions, bad habits. All of my bad eating habits have always come from being in a disempowered state, right? All of my bad choices when I was reactive came from being in a disempowered state. I want you guys to identify what's your disempowered state. So we all go there, right? And when we go there, what does that look like for us? You know, for me, it was always like this because I would worry all the time. So it was always like my fingers head on my, so if you guys ever see that, me do that, right? Then you know, snap out and tell me something. You know, or I would play with my hair lips and be so nervous. So I had to identify where I was going so that when I went there, I realized I'm in my head. So just write down for yourself, where does your body go? What do you normally focus on? Do I focus on what I can control or what I can't control? Do I focus on the past, present, or future? Do I focus on what's missing in my life or what I actually have? Because one's appreciating and one's not, right? And then the meaning and the language. What's the language? What's the meaning in your disempowered identity? What's the things that you say to yourself? What does something normally mean to you? And just write that down and nickname that disempowered identity. Don't put your name to it. Give it another name, a name you don't like. Because you break the pattern by making the decision, you cut off from that identity completely. No more. Okay, good. All right.
Freeze pose! It's video, lady.
Oh, it's video! Freeze pose! That's funny. Okay,
guys, let's transition a little bit.
Wait, one more. So, the empowered, everybody's got their disempowered identity?
Yeah.
Okay, who wants to volunteer? So someone put this in the room?
Somebody didn't get a credit.
Oh gosh, you're so right, thank you. Angela, who wanted that life for me?
Accountability.
Anybody else want to volunteer? Put this around the room?
I will.
Okay, perfect. Find the space.
That carrot and stick thing is working so well.
Oh, where did these come from? I'm sure you got all these. Hold on. Okay. There you go.
These are fancy.
Those are the ones I use, yeah. So these are the cards. This card deck is part of my brand. So they're, what I'm giving out for free here is affirmation cards that I use daily that clear your chakras and kind of, it's just a good habit for me to read and flip through every day, and I just feel it puts me in my empowered state, you know. Okay, we talk about empowered state. So you have your disempowered state, now we want to focus on your empowered state. So who are you going to become at the end of the fire walk? When you do that fire walk, it's a metaphor for you shifting into a new identity. So I want you to identify right now who that is. Okay, so how will that person stand? What will that person focus on? What's some of the language and the meanings that you're going to put to things, right? So it's not just about walking on fire, it's walking on fire with a purpose. And so if you walk on fire with a purpose and at the end of that you've just your identity, now you're more focused, you have empowering decisions, you're more responsive instead of being reactive, you have good habits, right? You have healthy emotions. Yeah, Hadi.
I just remember when you told me and my new identity is superhero Hadi.
Yeah, superhero Hadi. And no wonder that's why you're like this now, walking around like that. So Hadi's one of my coaching clients.
Yeah.
And we gave him an identity superhero Hadi.
Yeah.
So now you understand why he's like,
Let it fly.
I'm flying.
Let it fly.
All right, so put on everyone's got their, and then nickname that person, right? That's who you're going to become. You're making the decision. You're drawing the line in the sand, and you're going to step over after the firewalk, and you become that. That is now you. You've cut off the old identity. You never go back there. Everybody with me? If you agree to that, put your hand up. If you have to commit to that for yourself. You're committing to it for yourself. Good. Okay, good. Awesome. All right, so I am just going to take a quick look here. Everyone's put a nickname to it. We talked just quickly to live in a beautiful state. Tony talks about there's the science of achievement, which we all master as overachievers. Then there's the art of fulfillment. Okay, the art of fulfillment is about living in a beautiful state. We're talking about what that looks like for you personally. There are some other ways that you can break a pattern. And one of those ways that you can break your pattern is just breathing. So you can take four inhalations, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then think about 2 things you're grateful for. That's one tool I use. Inhale, let's try that now. And exhale. Think of 2 things you're grateful for. What a beautiful state you're in right now. Nice. Yeah, so pretty. That looks really good on you.
I was thinking about my kids.
Aw, that's nice. Good. Do you see? Feel better?
Just do a quick 1-minute share.
Yes. Please.
So when I feel something negative, or when I'm experiencing a negative situation, I feel like I'm aware that I'm feeling something negative, and then I physically feel it as a block inside me.
Mm.
So then what I do is this is just my technique that I do, and I actually feel like I'm letting it go.
Mm.
So I physically feel a block, then I physically let it go, and then I feel this, because the natural flow of energy in our body, it has a natural flow, and every time there's this block, our energy's not flowing properly. So when I let this block go, then I feel like my energy is like flowing again.
Absolutely.
So, but the thing that I do is I actually physically feel a block.
Mm-hmm.
Or physically feel
It's so important. That's key. If you are empathic, you're going to feel something somewhere. If you're feeling, whether it's your chest, your abdomen. A lot of times for females, it's the abdomen. That's where we have our experiences. Okay. For men, most of the time, it's your chest. Right. So you really you don't want to ignore it. You want to stay open and allow it to express itself, and it will leave your body. Allowing it to express itself means to focus on where it is, and it's going to feel more painful initially for the first couple of minutes, and then it's just going to dissipate. Usually when it dissipates for me, and I notice for other people when I coach this, it actually exits the body this way. Okay, you'll feel it, and you may feel a vibration if you're that empathic, but it will completely come out. And then that's really important that you're saying that, because live in a beautiful state. So breathing, what I just taught you. The other thing is to focus on where it is in your body and to just be with it. Don't repress it, because it's going to come out some other way.
Yeah, and then after it leaves, and I just feel it all flowing again.
And you're all flowing again. Absolutely. And then that's a great time for you to instill a new belief. Okay, a new empowering belief. When you let go of stuff, fill up, because what happens if you don't go into an empowering belief in that moment, guess what? Other negative beliefs have room. And they will creep up into your subconscious mind, okay, into your psychology. So that's a good time to start to infuse yourself with some empowering thoughts. So tell yourself some 3 phrases, good phrases, is I will not let this or them or whatever it is have power over me, right? Life is too short, right? I'm going to take 100% responsibility for my life, and I'm going to choose to let this go now. Those are the 3 phrases that you should be thinking of when you want to, a way to move up that scale, okay? All right, so when you're suffering, there's only 3, it's in your book. There's only 3 things that cause suffering. The fear that you've lost something, the fear that you're going to have less than, or the fear that you're never going to have it. Those are the 3 things that cause suffering. So check in. What am I fearing right now? Okay? The antidote to end suffering is to appreciate, right? Gratitude is always gratitude, and to enjoy something, to celebrate. somebody was also mentioning, you know, how do I learn from this? I think Angeli said, what could I learn from this experience? Tony talks about that a lot. You know, there's never suffering, right? We're not really suffering. If you learn something, that's not failing, right? So what did I learn from that experience? Always checking in. How could I have grown from this? How could I grow from this? And then give back. Love, give, and be grateful. The power of gratitude is so important.
So that's appreciate and enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah, appreciate and enjoy, like celebrate.
Yep. Learn and grow.
Learn and grow.
And then love, give, and be grateful. I want to make sure you guys get the love too, because there's 4 over here and 40 over there. So I want to make sure we go back and forth a little bit.
Lastly, there is a little prayer, Ho'oponopono prayer. A lot of you have heard of this before. Ho'oponopono prayer. And it's a Hawaiian ancient prayer to cut the cords of suffering. Okay? So some of you guys have known this before. I want all of us to say it. I want you all to think about something in your life or somewhere that you're suffering in your life right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to say the long form. You can just do the short form. That works too. But what I want you to do is I want you to think about this prayer is for you to kind of make the choice to cut from the victim mentality and understanding that there's a bigger part of you and that responsibility comes from you, okay? Think of something that you're all struggling with and something that you've been suffering with. Anybody need more time to think about that? Okay, good. So we're gonna say this all together, the long form, okay? Ready? On 3, 1, 2, 3. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Again. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. One more time. I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And just be present with that. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to me.
Let's give everybody a round of applause for Elena. Isn't she a rock star?
Yes,
Oh,
she is.
thank you. Oh, thank you. Love you too. You're welcome. Okay, now Brad's got wealth dynamics.
All right, guys, so
No, break. Do you want to give them a little break?
you guys need 5 minutes to stretch
5
and around?
minutes.
Yeah.
Money is good.
Welcome to the Abundant Purpose Masterminds. My name's Brad Hart. Let's give it up one more time for Delina. She is a rock star. And to all of you who shared and made yourselves vulnerable and shared things about yourselves that you might not share in other things, well, we have them all live on Facebook, so Mark Zuckerberg knows them too. Just in case you were...
And the NSA.
And everybody else for that matter. Okay, so what am I here to talk to you about today? So I want you to live and flow. I want to create those ripple effects, those domino effects that go out into the world and make it a better place, right?
Okay.
Who wants to make more money in this world? Ooh, me. Every hand should be up. And some people have a story about money. Money's just a tool, right? It's just a system of exchange that we all agree upon, right? If it's seashells or paper or Bitcoin or gold, it's whatever we decide is valuable. And what is wealth really? Well, the best definition of wealth I've ever found is simply value added times leverage, right? All we do in this world to create an economy, which is just really a collection of decisions that we all make, is add value to each other, right? I think what you have is valuable, and I'm willing to exchange something that I deem valuable in exchange for that. And when that abundant exchange happens, the world goes around. When a recession is going on, all that means is that the money has stopped flowing. People have stopped either valuing or they've gotten afraid or whatever's happened that has gotten the world to slow down. So the way to keep the economy moving is to continue to create more value and to create more transactional currency, right? So when I think about wealth, and just to give you a little bit of my background, I was a real estate agent in New York for a couple of years. I had a team of 6 people that worked under me, everything from marketing to sales to negotiating with landlords to closing deals. I was so freaking loud in my office and so high energy that everybody on the floor would complain that I was too loud, I was too much energy. And this is like 2008, 2009, so like the worst possible time that you could be in real estate in New York City, right? It was like the oxygen had been sucked out of the city. So my team eventually, the compromise that we came was they took the reception out because they were complaining to my boss, Bruno and Noah from Philly, two guys that had built a real estate empire in 8 years that was competing with corporate. 400 agents, 5 offices, and they poured a lot into me. I got 5 or 6 promotions inside 2 years and a team under me. They compromised with everybody who's complaining that I was so loud and so brash, which is not untrue. They put me in a fishbowl, right? You ever see those offices where you go in and it's like, you know, the glass, the cubicle, and you can kind of like, if you open the door, you can see people's lips moving, you open the door, you hear them yelling, and then you close it again. It was like one of those. And that's where the receptionist used to be. So you get off the elevator, and you look ahead, and it would say, there would be a little sign on the wall that would say reception that way. And you would just see me going at it, closing deals, doing my thing. Up until my dad passed away. One day, you know, I'm on my way home to visit my mom. It was Long Island. I was on the train, and I get a phone call. And it was from the police officer that found my dad passed away in his house. He died alone, unfortunately. And that was on Mother's Day about 7 years ago, where I shifted my life around again. I went on to meet some of my heroes. Like, you know, I'm leaving some of this out just for time, but key points are, I was really geeking out about 3D printing. And 3D printing is a technology. I wrote a book called Abundance by Peter Diamandis, if anybody knows Peter Diamandis. He's the founder of the X Prize, Singularity University. Really smart guy thinking about the future. And I was really geeking out about 3D printing. That book had lit me up. I was on a road trip from San Francisco to New York when I read it. And 3D printing I thought was really cool. So I had this opportunity. I'm sitting in bed one day, I'm scrolling through Twitter, and I come across this tweet, come meet Richard Branson and support a charity called Free the Children. So like before my brain even had processed it, I had a ticket, I had a new wardrobe, I was down in Miami and I'm meeting Richard freaking Branson, like somebody I'd always wanted to meet. The founder of the Virgin Empire, 400 companies around the world. So it's this tiny little event. I hadn't even I skimmed the e-bite. I was just like, meet Richard Branson, I'm there, I don't care, the amount of money doesn't matter. I always wanted to do that. So I'm here in this mansion, it's the Versace mansion. And there's 2 parties going on. One is the 15th anniversary of Virgin flying to Miami. And the other one is for Free the Children to raise money for that charity. And they help free children from slavery and child labor all over the world. Craig Kilberger and Dr. Kalacharian, they're both Toronto guys actually. Anyway, so Richard finally makes an appearance. There's like 12 people in this little room. And we're talking supermodels and billionaires and people with solar companies. I had no business being in this room, or so I thought. And Richard took a moment. You think he's this like rebel, extroverted billionaire. He took a moment to center himself and he said, I want you to know something. If you're in this room tonight, it matters, and it means something. And I want to take a moment to learn what you're excited about, because ultimately, the people in this room are going to change the world. And I just want to listen and hear how I can help do that. Total humble, like completely grounded guy, incredible guy. So he did. He went around the room and he asked everybody, what are you excited about? And people talked about selling their companies, and people talked about, you know, their initiatives and their charities. And when it got to me, all I could think to talk about, what was bursting out of me, what I was a vessel for at that moment, the possibility I wanted to create was, hey, have you guys heard about 3D printing? I think it's really cool. And nobody at this time, in 2011, was talking about it. So he listened intently, and I talked about how we're going to create space travel, and we're going to have machines that print machines. We're going to print organs and cells and drug trials and all this cool stuff. And I painted this picture of a future with moving from mass production, which we currently have, to mass customization. Everybody gets the same widget to everybody gets their own widget. And he listened intently, and at the very end he said, listen, I really need you to email me about that. I'm like this 25-year-old kid, I'm like, wait a second. This billionaire, this rebel billionaire says, email me about this idea I have. And that was the first time anybody like that validated one of my ideas in such a way. Now, of course, I screwed up the handoff, and I wouldn't do that today. I didn't get his email. It was like a 6-year open loop where I finally got reconnected. That's a whole nother story. Because at that time, I didn't know how to handle that. But it gave me the confidence. It really showed me that, oh my God, my ideas do have value. What I'm excited about, so are other people, and really influential mover and shaker people. So that gave me the confidence to go back to my investor club. I had this little club where I talk every week about what I was investing in and say, hey, this is what happens. And somebody in that club had a column in Forbes magazine. And they said, hey, do you want to write in Forbes about 3D printing? I said, absolutely, I want to write in Forbes. He says, can you make it about shipping? I said, okay, because this column was about shipping. So I wrote about how you could print parts out in the ocean in case something went wrong. Wow. So random, by the way. Like, everybody who read that article was like, why about shipping? It's because of the column, right? You take the opportunity. It doesn't always look like what you think it's going to look like, but you take the opportunity to share your thing. And I didn't really know anything about PR, I didn't know anything about Forbes, I didn't know any of that. All I did was I wrote the best article I possibly could, and I tied it together with a story, and I put it out there. And then I did something else. I took one step further. I realized that nobody would ever read it if I didn't really get some muscle behind it. So I made a list of every key influencer that I'd ever met in my life. Every person who knew enough people to make a difference that they shared it. And I just simply asked them, I said, listen, I was just published in Forbes, it's really important to me, I told them the story, I'd really love it if you would just give it a share. And one of those people who shared it was a guy named Tim Ferriss. Anybody ever read the 4-Hour Workweek?
Of course.
So who reads the 4-Hour Workweek? Who reads Tim's blog?
That's his podcast.
Right? The podcast. I mean, everybody in Silicon Valley reads this thing. So now, oh my God, overnight I'm getting like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. The article went on to be read and shared like 300,000 times. And then something else happened. All these really wealthy people started getting interested in 3D printing. So you started seeing some of the stocks get more interest and start to pick up steam. Inside a year and a half, I'm not saying I was all to do with this, but it certainly helped. About 3 of the stocks went up 10x or more. And I don't know if that was justified or not. The market is the market, right? But it was just this groundswell that came from just me being in that space and speaking up because somebody gave me permission to believe in myself. And then that led to something else. I get a phone call one day. It says, hey, from Morgan, also Toronto guy, Morgan. Hey, I just paid for my wedding with that stock tip. How do I give you money to manage? I said, money to manage? I have no idea, Morgan. So I start calling smart people, and they said, oh, it's easy. You start a hedge fund. I'm like, a hedge fund? Are you kidding me? I'm this kid. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm 26 years old at this point. How am I going to go and start a hedge fund? He says, it's easy. Here's a lawyer, here's an accountant, here's a third-party administrator, SEC, blue sky laws, Delaware, incorporate, LP, blah, 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 go. I'm like, I don't need like the Pope to come and be like, you may start a hedge fund. No, because at this point I knew I didn't need permission from anybody. I could give myself permission to follow my dreams, at least what they were at that time. So moving forward, I did what I knew how to do. I made a list of 200 names of people that may or may not have given me money if I asked. And most of them were part of a mastermind group I was a part of at that time. And I can tell you 100 stories about how mastermind groups have changed my life, and people I've met have given me first-class tickets anywhere I wanted to go, and invited me to their $20 million homes. And I've written marketing campaigns for multi-billion-dollar companies with presences in 165 countries, and I was this 20-something-year-old kid. Right? The opportunities that open up to you by being in the right room with the right people are endless. And it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, right? So I did that again. I went and I made 200 phone calls, give or take, and every time I got a little bit better at telling the story, every time I got a little bit better at seeing the objections people were having, every time I got a little bit better at raising that capital. And 17 of those 200 people ended up saying yes, and Heartwood Capital was born. And Heartwood Capital has a real meaning to me. So Heartwood is the name of an orchard that my great-grandfather used to run. And he had a saying, my great-grandfather, he owned a lot of lands and he used to plant orchards because once you clear cut it for, the natural beauty it had, there wasn't a whole lot else to do with it. So he planted orchards and he had a saying, an orchard is not one tree. One tree does not an orchard make. I must plant 1,000 trees knowing full well that some of these trees will live and some of these trees will die. So I must plant many and water them all so that I eventually have a thriving orchard that bears much fruit. How much are our lives like this, right? We look at the one tree and we say, oh, if this tree doesn't work out, it's over. When we should be planting hundreds, if not thousands of trees, knowing full well that some of them are going to die. We have no earthly idea which ones are which beforehand. But if we plant a lot, we water them all, we'll have a thriving orchard that bears much fruit. So that became the status for the hedge fund. The hedge fund ended up doing 106% return inside of 1 year. We had a month where my partners and I made $1,040,000 in net profit in May of 2013. And that was more money, growing up where I grew up and the situation I grew up in, that was more money I'd ever seen or heard of. Right? I told you a story earlier about my mom and my dad, and they had a lot of trouble growing up. We never had a lot of money. So to have that much abundance flow into my life all at once was groundbreaking, but I also felt more empty and more disconnected and more out of my flow than I ever felt before. Now, knowing me now, do you picture me in a desk, behind a desk, looking at charts all day? But that used to be me. I was the guy looking at the ticks and the charts and the numbers and the spreadsheets and all the things. That's not me, man, and that's okay. And that's how this ties into what we're going to talk about today. The reason I was successful at the hedge fund was because it was a function of teamwork and leadership. I had the right people on my team, the right partners to make it work. Where I failed was trying to do everything myself, wear every hat. I was customer service, I was raising money, I was dealing with the third-party administrator, I was dealing with legal, I was dealing with this, I was You gotta be able to stay in your lane and focus on what makes you excited. What lights you up? What's your flow? And everybody's flow is a little bit different. So, you know, the hedge fund did fine, but it wasn't for me. I ended up winding it down, and that's a whole other story, to focus on really finding and connecting with myself. And I got a lot of stories I could tell, but I want to be respectful of your time and keep moving towards something that's valuable for you. Is that understanding that when you're living in your flow, and you have your purpose, and you really get your what and your why, the how will show up. And a function of that is knowing who you are as an entrepreneur or as an entrepreneur, whether you're working for somebody else or you're working on your own thing. And neither is bad or wrong. I mean, I'm not saying entrepreneurship is the only way to do things. I'm an entrepreneur because I'm unemployable. Literally nobody will hire me because I'm a terrible employee. I'm the worst employee you would ever hire, and I'm just not going to subject anybody to how terrible I am as an employee, so I'm going to do my own thing. And I get to do cool stuff like this with cool people like you from all over the world, and why not? Because I gave myself permission, and so can you. But it's because I know what I'm good at, and I stay in my lane, that it works. And when I step out of my lane, trucks full of bricks show up. Like almost immediately. That day, I'll be on a run and I'll stub my toe because I'm in my head. Or I'll bang my head on the counter. Or I'll smack my elbow. You ever just get hurt for no reason?
Yes.
And is it always when you're in your head and not present? Welcome to my life. So, let's talk about wealth dynamics. And I want to make this accessible for everybody. So how could I draw this in a way that would be accessible where everybody can see me draw it?
Can we use this?
Yeah. Is there
Here's
like a easel? Or,
here are the markers.
where could I put this where everybody can see it?
And we could just
we could just
someone do a mirror up there.
Should, we can make two, just put one in there, and
Okay,
then we'll
cool.
do one in here.
So here's the key concepts, and I'm just going to turn around as I write these. And I'm going to write them and then I'll turn around. So the key concepts here are, there are 4 things that every business or every venture, every project needs. It needs an idea, or ideas. It needs people, right? Team. Teamwork makes the dream work. It needs the right timing. Right idea at the wrong time is still the wrong idea. And it needs numbers, or systems, or process, or however you want to say. But numbers is a good catch-all for that type of, make it real. Or we could look at it as what, who, when, how, and what ties us all together, because everybody has one of these things that they're really great at, and sometimes people border on 2, so there's 8 different types of people, is why, right? What did we talk about earlier is our purpose. So I'm like an entrepreneurial owl. I'm always asking, who, who?
What does that say?
It says people.
People.
Right, so this is very extroverted, this side. Right, how many extroverts we have that are lit up when they're around people? Steve in the back waving, yeah? I get it. So what we tend to be good at is dealing with people, right? Working with people, building relationships with people, leading people, marketing lends itself, sales, negotiation, strategy, getting into it with people. That's where we flow. When I try to be like Sten, who's on the opposite side, he's more of a numbers, process, system guy, he's more introverted, I fall flat on my face, right? Delina is an ideas lady. She's got ideas coming from, manna from heaven all day long. Idea. She's starting stuff left, right, and center all day long.
This thing here was my idea.
This is her idea. You're sitting in an idea she had. It didn't exist before she came up with it one day. Isn't that true of all life and all reality? Do we not live inside ideas, drive ideas, fly on ideas, to come here and eat somebody's ideas, to learn somebody's ideas? It all started in here, guys. Somebody somewhere decided it'd be a good idea if, and then they took action. So I'm going to teach you how to take action and build the team that makes the dream work. Oh, and finally, you have timing down here, which I'm terrible at. Timing. There are people in this world that get timing at a high level, right? There are stock traders and our negotiators, our deal makers, our diplomats, our salespeople. They understand that there's this time and a season and a place for everything. And that's their strength and their flow. So when you start to build teams, it's not necessary to have a 50 person or a 100 person or a 1,000 person team. It's necessary to make sure that you have all these bases covered. And the fewest people you can have and cover all these bases is 3. Right? So like in the sense of Delina and I, if she's really strong on ideas and I'm really strong on people, we need somebody over here to anchor numbers and timing. That's why I hired Thomas. Thomas can't be here today. He lost his father very sadly and tragically. However, he sends his love, and he keeps this whole train running from behind the scenes. He's the spreadsheet guy. Nothing gets past him. No detail. You know, he takes care of the payments on the back end. He takes care of the processes. He captures the gold that we create together. Delina has the idea. I throw gasoline on it. She lights a fire. I throw gasoline on it, and then it becomes a thing. And as a function of Thomas's what we call steel, his steel trap minds, we are able to do what we do. So our little tiny team makes that happen. So let's just go around the room. Has anybody done wealth dynamics? Wealth dynamics, wealth dynamics, wealth dynamics. Okay. Would you please share which profile? Creator, like Delina. Great.
Supporter.
Supporter, like myself and like Andrew. Andrew's also supporter. Star, got it. Anybody? Creator, got it, like Delina. Delina's also a creator. Anybody else? Anybody else do it? Kyle is a mechanic, yep, absolutely. Stan is a lord. So these are just 8 different types, right? I'm going to draw them out. I'll take just a second to kind of move along here. So let's use a different color I haven't used. So it's going to be creator, star, and I'll hold this up for you guys to see. Supporter.
What's the VXL or V and L?
V and
in the
L.
middle.
On the handout you're talking about.
Value times leverage, remember?
Yep, equals wealth. Yep.
Oh, I gotcha.
Dealmaker. That's just the best definition of wealth I've ever seen. Like, how do you create wealth? Well, you add value and you get leverage. Simple. Help more people with more problems.
Tell us what your vibes are.
Yep, accumulator. I'm going to hold it up too. And then I'm going to give you guys mentors, books, people that are these types so you can kind of look out for them. After a while, this becomes like a shorthand for dealing with all kinds of people. It's an incredible tool. Lord. Okay.
And if you go to this link, you can take the wealth dynamics test.
Yep.
Okay, so you can find out your profile. It's easy, quick. I have an identity crisis. Now I'm reading it again, I realize that.
Okay, guys. So let's say you're a creator, right? Like Delina.
I mean, look at this. Like,
That means you're hardcore on ideas. That's what you should focus on. The only job of a creator, because they're also the things next to them. So think about how they make their wealth. So they're also mechanic and they're also star. So really, mechanics take things apart, put them back together, and then create a new idea, right, over here, and then validate that idea. So think about this as the cusp between ideas and people. So what do stars do, like Savannah? Or like Tony Robbins, or like Oprah Winfrey, or like Beyonce? They use the power of their personality. They're always talking about ideas to people. And that's how they create wealth. In and of itself, it's valuable, but also when you connect it to this wealth creation cycle, it becomes exceptionally more leveraged too. So that's all you should really be doing as a creator is having an idea and validating it.
That's a real
Getting people enrolled in the vision. I make up little cool, mnemonics to help remember it. So the creator's mnemonic is think. Take how it is normally known. I have an idea. I think, I have an idea. I take how it is normally known, and I'm going to think about something different. A star's mnemonic is manifest. One day I would have friends.
Anywhere I want.
M-A-N-I-F-E-S-T.
Make
Make a new, intriguing future
And I didn't see much of the world that
through enrollment, speaking,
now it's
and
really
thought
true.
leadership.
And I
Manifest.
just want to say I'm grateful because that 5-year-old kid prayed.
So the star would think of a new idea, they would talk to people about it, and then they would support people in one-on-one and leadership positions. So now we're moving into my territory, which is the supporter. My acronym is SEEDS. Is to seek, am I going too fast by the way? Is anybody having trouble keeping up? Okay. Seek in every encounter, to diagnose, right? Because we got to know what it is. We got to really ask questions until we're clear. Create space, make people feel seen and heard. Because if you try to solve their problem before they feel seen and heard and understood, forget it, it's over. And then finally, serve, support, and solve. Right? So I don't know what the problem is until I ask enough questions to get really clear. And then if I haven't created space, you don't feel seen, heard, and understood. And then from that space where you feel seen and understood, and we both agree with the problem is, I can serve, support, and solve ultimately your problem. So SEEDS is a kind of a long acronym, but I think it's a really important one. And that's on a one-on-one or a group effort. It works really well. I recommend you go and do it. And then moving down the chart, we move into the timing, right? So now how do we connect that to the marketplace? So now we've got the idea. We validated with the marketplace, and we've created that space so that we can solve the problem. We've worked it out with actual people, right? We've worked with the marketplace to create that value. People are like, okay, cool, I really like this. Now how do we connect it to the broader marketplace? Well, now we do what's called crops, right? We had seeds, and now we're moving into crops. And crops is my favorite acronym. The deal makers of the world, they have all these pieces of this puzzle. What they do is they say, okay, I'm going to connect resources, opportunities, people, and systems together. Connect people, resources, opportunities, people, and systems together. So we got our seeds, we're growing crops. That's when a deal is established, right? It's just the connection of things between potentials, and now you have a new thing. And that's where the marketplace starts to get excited, right? We see the value now. So now we're creating more value for more people. That's where the traders step in. Have you ever met somebody who could tell you to the penny the exact balance of their bank account? Have you ever met somebody who just always seems to have more money coming in than they know what to do with? And they're spending it on all kinds of crazy stuff and sports cars and this and that and the other thing? You ever met somebody who just makes money? Like it's the easiest thing in the world to do. Like they never struggle with it. They can just put their head down and work endlessly and just pile up money. I've met tons of people like this in my life. And then when you talk to them about new ideas or going to a party or, you know, how to get more leverage or create a new system around it, maybe not so much. So these are the tempo people. They show up once the work that we were just discussing has been done, right? The idea is validated, we got the people, we got the team, there's money to be made, okay, now they're gonna ring the register. They're gonna go out and sell for you, they're gonna create the relationships. And the acronym I use for them is, they're very timing, they're very realistic, right? So where Delina's kind of a dreamer and head in the clouds, up here, they're very earthy. They're very head to the ground. They got an ear to the ground. They got a good sense of timing. When's the right time to strike to make gold happen, right? So, you know, a trader or something like this, their acronym is going to be have a realistic viewpoint on every sale, trade, negotiation, investment, or gain. Harvesting. Right? So now we've gone through the idea, we've thought about it, we think, right? We've manifested. We've planted seeds, we've grown crops, and now we're harvesting. We're adding value to the marketplace. We're meeting the market where they live. Have you ever struggled to get your idea to connect with the marketplace? Or to validate your idea? Woo! Let me get a hell yeah and an amen. Well, maybe you didn't have the right person on your team that could naturally flow and do that. Right? Okay, so moving forward. This is where I like to introduce more of the mentorship and who these people are. So like, Tony Robbins, for example, is a star. And he mentored a friend of ours named Eli Wilhide, who became the top Tony Robbins salesperson of all time. He sells more Tony Robbins than anybody besides Tony Robbins, and I'm convinced it's only because he hasn't been at it for 40 years like Tony has. He routinely outperforms 5-to-1 Tony's other salespeople. He sells more UPW tickets than anybody in recorded history. Like, he routinely fills 10 to 20% of an event himself. And he was a star, and so was Tony. So being mentored by somebody who's in your flow. Have you ever got really great advice from really smart people that just didn't work for you? And it's good advice, and you know they're successful because of it, but why? It's because they're using advice that's good for their flow and their time. And they're giving it to you, and you might have a totally different skill set. And if you judge its, a fish by its ability to climb a tree, as Einstein said, you're going to spend the fish is going to spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. Whereas the monkey is going to be like, oh, I got trees, I can do this all day. Right? But you try to throw a monkey in a river and see what happens. You should give him a ducky paddle. Right? That's probably how to fix that. So really, just getting the right mentorship, reading the right books. So if you're more like a Tony Robbins type, you're going to read more about what Tony Robbins does. You're going to go to Tony Robbins events. You're going to pay attention to that. But if you're like our next type, which is the accumulator, which is down here on the cusp between timing and numbers, you're going to create wealth in an entirely different way than Tony Robbins. The opposite of the spectrum. Just like Stan and I are opposites of the spectrum. But when we work together, and we learn how to communicate with each other, what's important to each other, oh my God, are we powerful? Right? Okay, so let's talk about Warren Buffett. Who has studied Warren Buffett, greatest investor of all time? All right, Marco, a couple other people. Anybody? Okay. So Warren Buffett is really good at numbers and timing. If you ask Warren Buffett how to invest, he's going to say, start by reading every prospectus of every public company and know all the numbers. You're going to be like, Warren, there's like 50,000 of us. You'd be like, start with the A's. And work your way forwards. And somebody like me is going to, oh, no thanks. Right? But there are people out there who really geek out on that stuff, and they love it. They might just be an accumulator. Warren Buffett got mentored by a guy named Ben Graham, and he partnered up with a guy named Charlie Munger. With the mentorship of Ben Graham, Intelligent Investor, great book, and partnering up with Charlie Munger, who were all like this, right? They're numbers and timing guys. They were able to create more wealth than any humans on the planet so far by living in their flow. Because they got all the numbers in their head, and they got a really good sense of timing, so when the right deal shows up at the right time, they're ready to put $1 billion to work and make it into 5 or 10 billion. Right? Warren Buffett's the guy that during the financial crisis was sitting in his bathtub when he sensed it was the right time to invest in Bank of America. So he calls up the CEO of Bank of America and says, hey, your bank's having some trouble, huh? I got $5 billion to put to work in your bank. What do you say? Okay, Warren, we'll give you preferred Class A shares and we'll give you a 6% dividend. Nobody on earth can make that deal. You can't go buy Bank of America at a 6% coupon and then, by the way, quintuple your money in the next few years. Nobody can do that here, but Warren Buffett can, because he's living in his flow. So I want to introduce you to just plant the seeds of, if you're not getting the mentorship that you need, maybe finding the people in your life that you can consult with, that you can get coached by, that have the success that you want, but are also in your flow. All right, so moving right along. So if Warren Buffett's strategy is timing and numbers, they cull, right? They capture undeniable liquidity and longevity, right? So now we're starting to get into like a consistent cash flow type of business, right? We've already done all the validation, team building, and met with the marketplace, and it's all in motion. Now they're going to come along and buy it, and own it, and control it. So they capture undeniable liquidity and longevity. Their acronym is cull, right? We harvested, now we're culling. It's almost like he's thought about this for a while. So now we're moving into the steal territory. This is the lords, right? The lords are the cash flow asset controllers. They're the mature industry builders. They're the guys that don't invent trains but connect the entire continent with them, like Cornelius Vanderbilt. They're the guys that don't discover oil. It wasn't their idea. But they create the oil monopoly like Standard Oil, the Johnny Rockefellers of the world. They have a knack for systems and process. They don't invent steel. They create an industrial revolution around its manufacture and scale. Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men in the world at his time. These are our steals. They take and grow mature industries until somebody comes along who's really good with ideas and systems and really close to where they're at, because now we're over here in systems, numbers, process, spreadsheet land. And now they take their ideas and their numbers knowledge, they go into a room somewhere and they don't invent social media, but they invent Facebook. There was plenty of social media sites before Facebook, Friendster, MySpace. Mark Zuckerberg goes in a room, ideas and systems guy, and he creates Facebook. Sergey Brin, Larry Page, they don't invent search. There was plenty of search engines before Google, but then they invent Google. A guy named Jeff Bezos said it would be a good idea to sell books online instead of in bookstores, and now it's Amazon.com. Now you can buy everything there. They're all the mechanic type like cotton. They're going to take something that's already mature, and they're going to introduce a new idea and put it together, take it apart, put it together, take it apart until they perfect it. And that's the end of the wealth creation cycle. And then this becomes the world that we live in, and until a creator comes along and says, I have a better idea. And the wealth creation cycle starts again. Is everybody with me so far? So just understanding how wealth is created from start to finish, or where you fit along that line, allows you to start to think, okay, well, who do I need on my team? Who do I need to be hiring? Where am I out of balance in my organization? And why was I failing in the past where I could have been thriving? So unfortunately, I could go 2 days just on this topic. But I recommend and I invite you guys to check out the Wealth Dynamics Profile. It's the best $100 I've ever spent in my life. If I would have done this when I was 18, I would have had a totally different trajectory in my career. I wouldn't have done all the things I did, which are fine. Like they're not bad or wrong. They taught me what I know today, and I'm grateful. But I would have struggled a lot less knowing where I fit. So you've probably all done the MBTI and the Strengths Finder and the Colby and the Enneagrams. All of it's fine. I'm just saying this gives you the exact tools. It gives you a 40-page report. It says read these books, follow these mentors, pay attention to these things. Here are the people to have on your team to make the dream work, and much more. So this is a good framework for not just that, but now when you know people's types, because I've been getting really good at just being like, oh, I bet you're this type, and then communicating with people in real time. Whether they've taken the test or not, that's a confirmation later. But in that moment, I can make a shift for them because I know what they care about. Are they the kind of people who are going to get lit up by a new idea? Or are they the kind of person that's going to have a really great conversation with a person and want to have that one-on-one time? Or do they want to go out and shine like a bright star? Or do they want to be left alone to do their thing and kind of tinker and build, obstacle courses, whatever they're going to do? Are they the type of person who just wants to ring the cash register and make deals happen and put them together and bring those systems and resources together and make money happen? Maybe that's what they thrive. Maybe not. I don't know, right? But if I'm clearer about the type of person I'm dealing with and what they care about, I can be more effective in the way I communicate, the way I do business, and the way I build teams. I won't approach a creator the same way I approach a deal maker. They don't care about the same things that the other does, right? You bring a deal maker a new idea, they're going to say, can I make money out of it? Why is it useful now? Why is the right time? So as much as they're a dreamer, they're ear to the ground, right? They're very practical, is another way to put it. And they're not bad or wrong. It's all necessary to create wealth. Some people are going to care about the people and their feelings, and is everybody okay? And some people are going to care about the numbers and the data and the process. But all are important to make wealth happen. So I'm going to open up the questions, make sure this is all landing and clear, and then we'll kind of go from there, and I'll tweak anything we need to tweak. Question?
Yeah, I want to know if we are so fixed on the idea we are certified or like we are certified with limit our development in other skills.
That's a great question. So can you do everything yourself in life?
No, of course no, but you also don't want like if you have the freedom you have to rely on some other people and then
Well, all right, let me frame it a different way. So is Microsoft Bill Gates? Is Apple Steve Jobs? Is Tesla Elon Musk? And by the way, these are all creator types. They're at the top of the pyramid. So they have an idea and they set a vision. And then hundreds of thousands of people get behind that vision and their leadership to create what they envision. They don't go and build all the rockets and the electric cars and sell them and market them and do all that. They do parts of that. They lead the vision behind that, but they're not doing it all themselves. And without those, sometimes hundreds of thousands of employees and contractors and various people, and then the millions of customers around the world, none of that would exist. We all love to tell the story about how Steve Jobs is so great and how Elon Musk is so great, and they are, but they're one guy. Sarah Blakely is another creator, just to keep it, not gender neutral, not gender biased rather. But she couldn't do what she does. She had a great saying. I met her. Savannah was so excited when she booked the ticket. She's like, "You're going to meet Sarah Blakely! Oh my God!" I'm like, "What? What happened?" And she's super cool, but I just wasn't her demographic. I didn't know a lot about her. But when I met her, I was actually blown away. She said two things that really hit me right between the eyes. She said that female entrepreneurs are the most underutilized resource on the planet today. I said, "Yeah, I get it. I'm hip. I'm present to that." And we shifted our mission accordingly. We're creating more female wealth than we've ever done before. We're trying to support more female entrepreneurs than we've ever done before. We have a goal to create 100 female millionaires in the next 5 years. That's our big goal.
Yay!
And not because they need our help, but anybody pushing in the right direction is pushing in the right direction, right? Same thing with veterans and children and other causes of support. It's not that they wouldn't be able to succeed without it, but if there's more in that direction, then we can get there faster. And the other thing she said was that if your vision encompasses only you, you're only going to make, if it's only about you, you're only going to make like 75 grand a year. If it's you and your family, maybe it's like 150, 200 grand a year. Maybe if you want to, if it's your tribe and your community, okay, maybe you're making $500,000. You're doing pretty good. But if you want to make millions and you want to make billions, your vision has to be big enough to encompass all of these people doing all of these things. And are you guys familiar with Spanx? Anybody not know who I'm talking about? So Spanx is this brand. She basically invented it by cutting off her pantyhose one day. She wanted to look good in a meeting or just not feel self-conscious about her body. And that resonated at such a deep level with so many people that it created this movement. And now she's a billionaire, a self-made billionaire. The first female self-made billionaire came from nothing. Pantyhose, just an idea. And then around and around we went, right? Anyway, so take a lesson from Sarah and understand that if you're trying to do it all on your own, you're missing the point, right? It's not about what we can create for ourselves. And if we constrain it to that box and we say, oh, I'm only going to dip my toe in the river, well, you're missing out on the fact that there's buckets and there's irrigation and there's sprinklers and there's water towers. There's all these things you can do with that flow. If you decide to step into the gap, live in your flow, right, as a person, right? Flow can mean two things. It's like the flow that's happening all around us, all this money changing hands, all these ideas, all these needs, wants, and desires in the marketplace. We can tap into that, but we can also live in our flow. We can become the fountain, if you will, through which the flow passes. We can direct the flow in any way, like, I don't know if you guys buy into the illusion that we don't own anything here. When we die, all the money that we had is gone. It gets redistributed back into the world. All the property that we own, all the things we've ever touched, everything that we think we own is ethereal at best. And when we pass away, it's gone. But while we're here, we get to direct it to the things that we feel are important. And that's really what wealth creation is. Being an entrepreneur is not creating something out of nothing. It's taking what's already there and already flowing, already happening, and just directing it in a more organized way. It's taking all this chaos and making and creating out of it. That's it. And anybody can do that. You know why I love entrepreneurs, guys? Oh, it's going to light you up. I love entrepreneurs because they're people that create more than they consume and create before they consume. And I borrowed this from a mentor of mine, a guy named Kurt. And if everybody just created a little more than they consumed and did it before they consumed, wouldn't the world change overnight? Right? All these stories of lack that we have, if we were all just focused on our individual contributions, which get easier when you live in flow and stop fighting the current, the world would shift overnight. So if you want to create more wealth, if you want to expand your vision, we're here to support you to do that. This is the Abundant Purpose, the Fat Dolphin, we call it for short, the Abundant Purpose Mastermind. Right? We're here to help you create more abundance and live in a sense of purpose, because we don't want just a pile of money. Right? You heard my story. I made all the money, guys. It was a lot of money. And I'm not, to some that's like, there's a great joke. The Goldman Sachs partner gets asked, what would you do if you woke up tomorrow morning and there's $10 million in your bank account? He said, well, I'd ask myself where the rest of my money went. Right? So it's all relative, right? There's always a guy or a girl with more money than you. That's not the point. But if you're making what seems like to you a lot of money and you're still bitter and rejected and feel, disconnected and burned out, then maybe there's something to that. And that's what we're here to help you find. And on the other side, like if you're just not making enough money, we can help you with that too. Money it's a science, right? Add more value, get more leverage. We have the tools for that too. So Wealth Dynamics is one of those tools. We talk about these types of things. We bring in experts from all over the world. We've been at this for 2 years now. Every single mastermind call, and for those who are in the mastermind, they can attest to this. We bring in an expert who's a genius at their thing. We brought in guys like Dave Ruel, who took a $100,000 business and turned it into a $3.2 million a year business inside of 1 year. We've brought in people who have created branding agencies that have helped thousands of entrepreneurs go from zero to a cogent, recognizable brand that helps people. We have people, all the time, like Ari Meisel, who was literally killing himself doing stuff that was unimportant until he got systems, and then he created a company out of it. He had a podcast and a book called Less Doing, and a company called Less Doing, and now it's Leverage, and now he has teams of people that people can plug into that are entrepreneurs. They don't have to go find the people anymore. You can just pay them monthly and then pay them hourly.
That is seriously the mascot.
Can we
Got
see
me a penguin!
Everyone looks so good.
Guys, I just want to congratulate you for you've been like the best group to work
He
with.
says that
And
to
you're just so
everybody.
attentive and giving, and generous with your stories, with your experiences. Thank you. I just want to say I'm grateful. I know Delina feels the same way. We're grateful from the bottom of our hearts. You come from all over the world to be here. So give yourselves a round of applause. You guys are awesome rock stars, and we love you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it. So how was masterminding for everybody? It's pretty cool, right? Like you start to realize, like, wow, I'm surrounded by rock stars in this room. Like, there's some really heavy hitters in this room doing amazing stuff.
That's a taste of a mastermind,
Yeah.
right? The collaboration, the network, the experience, the wisdom that you all shared and connected through it. So you got a taste of what that really is.
Yeah, and that's kind of like a force multiplier for life, right? We can do what we can do, and we're good, and we're in our flow. But then when you add others to the mix, that's when magic starts to really happen.
So we want to take some shares. Any big breakthroughs for your mastermind sessions? What did you learn? Ken.
Annie needs to share.
All right. Stand, of course.
I think people standing in front of the fireplace is a great idea.
Yeah.
Because recently, me and my friends, we just started to build up a platform more about interview broadcast. And we want to go to interview people who have gone through tough life challenges. And especially the people who have gone through that, like, give you an example. I went to a self-defense class 2-3 months ago. And girls there, some of them have been sexually abused or raped. And that kind of experience, and I see how hard for people to open that up. So we want to build up an interview platform for people to come to share that. The reason I do that, because I have experienced the same thing. And I know how hard it's like. In the beginning, you just want to hide everything inside of yourself. And you feel it's like shame on me. And gradually you feel, okay, it's not my problem. And so I kind of want to cry. And so we know in our group, and I don't know if they allow me to share what we just talking about.
Just don't use any names. Yeah.
Okay. There's girls, they have experienced the same thing, and it's really powerful to find people like, okay, we have gone through bad experience. And we have suffered from that. Maybe we need to go to do some work of that. But after that, we can still have good life, and we can still pursue our dream. And so that's it. The interview platform we want to build up. And what's the other question? Okay, what I'm excited about? It's really, for me, it's really suffering when I see people, they have gone through similar things, but they try to hide that for them. And maybe their environment don't allow them to share that part of them. And we want them at least give them, after they see other people's stories, and they can have a little bit of wisdom and courage to face their own difficulties. And also, like, at this point, I take it as a gift because it helped me to relate to other people more. And I can understand other people more, no matter you're like drug abuse, sexual abuse, or physical abuse. Or some of my friends, they have panic attack, and they are all willing to come to share their story. I really have a lot of respect to them because it's very hard for people to open this kind of things up to public. And you know, I'm a freelance journalist, and I write for the New York Times Chinese and also New York Times. And I have an opportunity to interview like big famous people, and that is story people are easy to take. And we have a lot of that on media, which is good, but there are also people, they are not on the bottom, but on that kind of shadow dark part. And we hope through this program, we are able to build a little bit light and a little bit of wisdom and a little bit of courage there for people there, like in the night when you're lying on your bed, you're thinking about something just deep on your mind and you cannot get out. And we want to reach out to that kind of group of people. Yeah, so what's the project? And we actually start to shooting right now. And at the same time, we are organizing a Kickstarter campaign.
Okay, so you got a Kickstarter campaign and a documentary or film, or what is it exactly?
The broadcast, we will have like maybe each episode, it's like every week we interview one person about one of his story, and so it's about maybe 10 minutes, and it will be 2 episodes per week, and we will continue to do that. This is the interview program we are doing right now, and we start shooting right now. At the same time, beside of this, because our power is limited, and we want to start a Kickstarter campaign to raise some funding for us to keep shooting. And another part is like we really welcome interviewees. Like in our group, we just share. Our group are amazing. There are 2 of her. they will just come. They said, "Okay, I'm waiting. Come to share my story because they have already gone through that. They learn from that. They have a different perspective that empowers them right now." And so we need interviewees. So any of you guys, if you have story to share, please contact me and let's do this together.
Thank you for sharing.
That's beautiful. So she's giving people a voice. She's giving people a platform. She's sharing these stories with the world. She needs support in the form of more stories to tell.
Yeah.
And also, I'm sure she wouldn't mind to share or some sort of, leverage to get that word out to more people, right?
That is very noble and powerful.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now that we all know what her dream and her vision is, and we know what she needs, how easy is it to support her and plug her into the connections, the resources, the opportunities, the people, and the systems that can help her move that forward? Just like that. It might come to you in the shower one day, it might come to you in a conversation. Now that you're tuned into, and this is just how my brain and flow works, but now that you're present to what she needs and wants and desires and what she's trying to create in the world, if something comes up for you in a course of conversation, you can say, oh, she really talked to me about that.
I really appreciate everyone here is really listening to me because I remember the first time I told my mom about what happened. Why did you talk about it? Why did you just forget about it?
Yeah.
I know because of the culture environment
That's
and
right.
a lot of people in that kind of culture environment don't allow them to do that. Just makes things to become a heavier burden.
Sure.
So I really appreciate your guys'
Oh, of course.
understanding and support and yeah.
How many people have had something bad happen to them in their lives? There's a saying, my speaking coach, Thomas Blackwell, God bless his soul, he's the most patient man I've ever met, dealing with me. He had a saying, he said, people will love you, they'll respect you for your successes, but they'll love you for your failures.
Right.
Because everybody can relate to failure, but not everybody can relate to success, right? If I come up here and I talk to you about this and that and the other thing, I did this and then the other thing, and Forbes and the hedge fund, maybe you can't relate to that. But when I tell you about what it was like for me as a kid, or how my dad was, or my mom having to leave when I was a kid, you can find something in that story that can give you strength. And that's what you're doing for others.
Thank you for your vulnerability too, because that's so powerful. There's power in vulnerability, right? And thank you for everybody in the space that provided the space of presence for you to heal through that moment.
And we should have set some ground rules around identity. If
Yeah.
people don't want things shared, obviously we just keep that private. We don't say names. We just say this person I know or what have you. That's just common sense, but it's worth saying out loud because sometimes this stuff is damaging, or stories that people share could be perceived in a way that's not beneficial to them. And we don't want to hurt anybody, we want to only help people here. So who else would like to share something that came up for their mastermind and just kind of run through?
Yeah, we have time for about one more. One or two more.
Depending on how fast this one goes.
Yeah.
Anybody? Anybody want to be brave and share their story?
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it now.
I just want to make a comment.
Yes, please, Jane.
But what was really interesting that even though we all come from different places in the world, there was one or two things that we found that was, that connection.
Sure.
And it was kind of, I wouldn't say eerie, but it was just kind of like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like when you get these people together and ideas and, suggestions and that kind of was open and it flowed and you're like, oh, why didn't I just ask or share more, right? And just talk to people more. So I thought that was kind of neat. I knew I had one area that I was able to be like, oh, I can connect with each one of you in something and offer some sort of suggestion or whether it's of value or not, but it was really neat.
Different places, different races, it doesn't matter, right? We all have some basic needs and we can all support each other on those needs because we in some way live parallel lives. We in some way have the same challenges, right? It just looks different. It's a different face, it's a different, different time or whatever. What's something that you guys have learned today? What was the biggest aha, the biggest breakthrough?
Yeah, does anyone want to share a breakthrough or an aha
Biggest
moment?
aha.
Frank, what do you got?
It's quite simple. Actually, learning to be also to wonderful persons that I was sharing with. You never stop generating ambitions and dreams. No matter how old you are, no matter what you have done, what you might have failed with, dreams, they have no age. And it's really important to understand and to experience.
So what Frank said was that you never stop, no matter how old you are, generating missions and visions and dreams. That your purpose can be your purpose until it's not your purpose anymore, and then your purpose is to find your next purpose.
It is, and it keeps evolving, right? There's not one single purpose. That was one of my biggest breakthroughs, my first date with Destiny. Again, Tony coming to my aisle for a breakthrough for somebody else, and it was all about finding life purpose. And one thing that he said was, your purpose is always evolving. Don't think it's just one single purpose. So I had a purpose in the medical field, now I have a purpose in coaching and transforming lives and saving lives in this way. Karen, you had a share?
Yeah, and absolutely, that we're 100% responsible for all that.
100% responsibility, extreme ownership over everything in your life.
Absolutely. And then your whole life changes because you took responsibility for your own emotional state. Anybody else has a share?
Or an aha?
Aha.
I do have one question. Basically, like, I know you mastermind a lot of entrepreneurs, but like, what do you suggest if somebody is like employee and then they want to do more? You know, like, I know there is a limited field as an employee you can do, right? Even though you can do more. I mean, like, you can do it in individual level at most, but like, you cannot do globally when you are employed. So, how do you suggest, like, and then I do not have, honestly, like, I talked with Ms. Pizzardo, thank you so much, you know, she helped me always. And then,
Isn't she great?
and then, you know, like, I don't have enough courage directly to go from employee to the entrepreneur.
I get it.
You know?
And you are, so I like to refer to employees as intrapreneurs.
Right.
Right, so what is an entrepreneur really? The definition of an entrepreneur is somebody who takes resources from areas of low yield to areas of high yield. Can you not do that inside a company? Can you not see the puzzle pieces on the floor and say, oh, I'm gonna put this together in a new way and make more value? Right? It doesn't matter if you own the business or not. You're actually at lower risk, right? Entrepreneurs are gladiators. You know, in Business Mastery, Tony talks about how 90% of businesses will be out of business in 5 years. In fact, the longer you play the game of entrepreneurship, the better chance you have of dying along the way. Just like a gladiator. The more lions you fight, one day, right? So don't worry about being an introvert versus an entrepreneur as much as just thinking about what they do, right? They pick their head up from their desk, they look around, they see what can I do to add more value to this company, to my employees, or to the people I work with, the owners, the customers, and create a better experience for everybody. And in doing so, you're going to become more valuable, get raises, get more new opportunities, new promotions. So, you know, a mastermind group is really just a place to generate ideas, support, and accountability. Right? And you get into it because maybe you want to make more money, but the real underlying issue is what keeps you there and what you kind of begin to learn, right? It's like we have these two heroes' journeys. We have the thing we want to achieve or win or gain or stop doing or create, and then all underneath we have the story of transformation. Right? We've all had this happen in our lives where you get into something because we wanted X, Y, or Z, and then it was really all about A, B, or C.
And I would say, I will challenge you actually, again, to not say I don't have the courage, but in the past, I didn't have the courage. So you can start to retrain your subconscious mind. Yeah, in the past. So yesterday, even before you walked into this house, different person than who you are sitting in this present moment.
That's right. Never the same river, never the same minute.
And you can give yourself permission by saying, up until now, this is the way my life has been. From this moment forward, it will be different.
Yeah, very nice.
And then back that word up with an action that anchors it for you, right? Like take that action in that moment. So committing to action is the key thing. Nothing is real until it's in the calendar, until you take the first action. So that's really important. Like every time we have a dinner, we have a lot of family dinners in San Diego, and we always talk about what we're grateful for, what we'd like to improve, and then we take one action right then and there, even if it's just to set a calendar invite for ourselves to take action. If we can't take action right there, but I'll send a text, I'll send an email, make a connection, whatever it is, right there in that moment to make it real or get it going towards what it is, because otherwise, when is it going to happen? There's only right now. The future is a story and it's not guaranteed, right? It's something that we project onto what we think our lives are going to be, but we might die tomorrow. The past is a story, right? There's what happens and it's gone. And now our story of it lives with us, and we decide what that means, if it's empowering or disempowering. But the right now is where we can really create. That's the only place we can really create. We only live right now. Juliana.
I have to say that the feeling of still feeling surprised by the magic.
Oh.
I love that. I feel that too. Yeah, wow. Did that just hit anybody else right here in the feels?
Wow.
Because, you know, I take my vacations to come here and, you know, with not knowing exactly what is going to happen, but just knowing that something will happen. And in the moment of feeling and seeing it happen, still feeling surprised by it.
That's passion.
Every time. And there was magic in it.
That's a point right there.
Boom! Drop the mic! I love it. That's awesome. Did everybody get that by the way? You guys hear that?
Did you guys?
That was really beautiful.
Juliana, that was, thank you for.
So this is why I do what I do. This is why Delina does what she does. Like, because
That's the name
it was
of
never
my
about the
poem.
money, right? It's like,
Yeah. You just said the name of my poem.
if you can make magic here and now, like what about life is bad, right? Like every moment can be a magical moment if you decide to make it that way, right? But we have, as powerful creators, we have to make a decision, we have to make a choice to make that. Which I think segues perfectly into our next segment. And what Delina and I would like to do now, with your permission, is invite you to learn about what it is to be a part of this mastermind. Right? You had a taste, you were here today, you played full out, and we are grateful. But do we have your permission to tell you a little bit more about what it might look like to be a part of this moving forward?
Please.
Okay. All right. Because you're here doing it, right? You're making it happen, and we're grateful for that. And I just want to share a story of my life and how it's been changed by being a part of a mastermind. I've been, like I said, I've been a part of 15 masterminds, all different types. Some were entrepreneurial, some were not. Some involved a lot of travel, some didn't. Some were virtual, some were in person. And in every single one of those circumstances where I stepped into that gap and I played flat, I've spent $600,000 in the last 7 years. Traveling the world, meeting people, getting in the gap with people, and doing this type of work. I've invested in myself, and into my tribe, and in my network, to the point where now, all I have to do is pick up the phone. I don't need to know everything if I know everybody. I'm the guy who has a guy who's a guy. I'm the entrepreneurial owl, right? I'm the guy who's like, oh, who's perfect for this? And then it all comes together, right? The reason I can create at the level I create is because of that. And I'm not special. You can do it too. It's just what's your intention, right? What's your flow? What's your thing that's going to light you up and send you towards that place where you can create anything you want to create? So we've created an offer for you guys who are here in the gap with us to help you to give you a vehicle, really. Accountability, goals, masterminding, to go from A to B, right? We're all where we are, and we have a vision of where we want to go, but how do we get you to there? And what's listed there is, let me just grab my copy here, is some of what you get, right? So this is a year-long commitment. Whether you want to play with it or not is really just a function of not if you're going to make a change, right? It's not for us to say you got to work with us, or you got to do our mastermind, or it may not be the right fit for everybody, and we're okay with that. It's really more of a question of, are you going to get the accountability and support you need to make your dreams happen? Right? We've seen how powerful that can be. So what we do, how we run it, is we do 2-hour deep dive mastermind calls. We have some of our members here today, and I'd just like to invite one or two of them, either Karen or Sten or Brenda, just to kind of share what those are kind of like from their perspective. So it's not just coming from us, but these are people who've been in it. Karen's been in it since the beginning. Karen, would you mind sharing just kind of what a call goes like, or how it is for you?
Come on up.
Yeah, come on up. Share.
Karen and her husband, Martin, are coming from Spain. They're here
Come on up.
from Marbella.
Give her a hand.
No, but it's very helpful in every aspect of life, really, to be part of this mastermind with Brad and Delina. Because it's not only business, it's also about life, whatever challenge you have. You always have some good, there is always a what is it, a takeout or something you can work on and something that moves you forward or make plans for the future. And it's also the connection between people. And if you need something, or we share ideas, and connecting people. But also it's a matter of actually making the move. If you think about something, like am I or am I not, it can help you move the needle so much faster, and maybe also in the right direction if you're not really certain.
Because it's the small breakthroughs that you get in the mastermind that day for just 2 hours that will help you get that motivation back or have that right mindset to start taking action again and making progress.
Yeah.
I mean, this happens a lot when you go to events. There's that peak time when you're doing great and you feel great, but then you kind of drop down and you go back to old habits. Where having a coach, having a mentor, having a mastermind keeps you in that peak state, holds you accountable, and so that you can consistently have that progress.
Yeah.
So,
And you, Mojan, always tell me that I'm much happier after the mastermind.
Yeah. Maybe we should move these into a weekly session.
Yeah,
We should do it.
So,
it's absolutely an awesome community.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you for all your energy.
No, you're awesome.
So that's just a small snippet, guys, right? We have stories like these all day. I don't want to keep you all night. I know you want to eat. But that's what you get. You get deep dive mastermind calls led by both of us every month that we haven't missed, right? I'm always on. I missed one because I was traveling to the other side of the world and we had to move it. But we're committed to doing that once a month. Additionally, you get 24-hour support on the Facebook group. If you ever have a question or you have your own relationships that you've built with people in the mastermind that you can reach out to, even if we're unavailable. We make ourselves available to all our mastermind groups, right? You get the video recordings. If you can't make a call for whatever reason, there you go. You can go and check in and make your accountability. You get 12 exclusive guest speaker presentations, like I talked about earlier, Dave Ruel, on business, or Ari, or any of those other people. People from Delina's network, people from my network, the best in the world at what they do. You can have them come on, ask questions, and then they stay in the group. So if you have additional questions going on, you can just hit them up on Facebook or however they like to get their
And you get
advice.
access to all the archives. So whoever we've had for the past 2 years, you will have access to all the guest speakers.
Absolutely. So if you want to go back to January of 2016, I believe, right? Is when we started. 15 is when we started. Almost 2 years of guest speakers. You're more than welcome to do that. And the wisdom is timeless, right? It might be impression stuff like we had a Facebook ads expert on that'll tell you exactly how to build a Facebook ads campaign, all the way to how to publish a best-selling book. We're actually working on a best-selling book, which we'll talk about here in a minute. You'll get a free ticket to our next on-site event. You're always welcome in the community to come to any of these events that we have all over the world. You'll get all of the discounts on events, projects, things like that through Tony Robbins. Like these tickets that you guys bought through us, they can run into the thousands of dollars. We negotiated a rate and passed all the savings on to you guys. We didn't do it to make any money. We actually lost money on that because we believe that the work that Tony does and that the community produces is that important. And we just wanted to add on our piece of it as well to support you guys in doing that. And we're grateful that you're here, honestly, and thank you for taking advantage of that generous offer, because I think when you hear something like that, you kind of ask yourself, like, what's the catch, or what's in it for them? And I'll tell you, it's creating spaces like this where people can transform. It's not because I need another zero in my bank account, or it's irrelevant to me. I have what I need. It's about the people in my life, and Delina feels the same way. It's like, what can we really do to shift people, to create leaders that create ripples and domino effects in the world that create everything. Again, it all started out as an idea. So, anything that we do, we get you a good rate. We do it as a group. It's a good time. And if you like doing stuff like this around the world and hanging out with great people, I think that's awesome. Additionally, we want to give you our own personal support. So we have a ton of stuff from our own businesses, Purpose Now and Make More Marvels, and anything else we do, whether it be go take 50 entrepreneurs to China and learn about Amazon product sourcing. We have all that content. We can give it to you on a silver platter. That's all available to us. We have a training board with all the courses that we buy. And if you want access to something, it's like a library. You can check one out. We just ask that you take notes and put them up there and share it with the community. And then you can do that. I mean, that's in and of itself hundreds of thousands of dollars in value. I've invested so much over the years, and so has Delina, and so has everybody in this group, to create that library, so it's just there at your fingertips. And then finally, we want to support you individually as coaches, right? We're both coaches. We both love to coach. It's not what we do as a living. It's not how we pay the bills necessarily, but it's something we really love to do, and our time is limited, so this is the way we can get the most leverage, is helping people with coaching and support through the leverage mastermind model, but also as individuals. So if you need help with finding your purpose, living your purpose, sharing your purpose, if anything relating to emotional mastery comes up, Delina's perfect for that. She's gonna help you shift it, change it, overcome it, make a new meaning around it, and it's gonna be immediate. If you need help on the business side, the logical side, you know, and you wanna build or invest or grow, you know, I've had conversations about life insurance. I've had conversations about various stock and bond and gold and, you know, different portfolios you can put together to balance risk and have your money work for you. We can talk about real estate. I did real estate in New York City for many years. We could talk about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and impact investing, all the things I'm lit up about. Whatever you want to create in the world. I'm either the guy or I know the guy or the girl that can tell you about it, right? So having that access to us, in and of itself would be worth the cost of admission, but we want to make it available to you as a self. So just going down the line here, you got all the recordings, you got all the vaults, you got all the things, that's all included in the full pay, right? Then we have what's called in the Inner Circle Mastermind, which is the one, the main offer, right? And the list price for that is $7,997. I want to talk to you about the two things you'll get with the VIP experience. Is you'll get an additional 3 coaching sessions, so 5 total coaching sessions, 1 hour each with either Delina or I. You can pick, you know, who you need more support from. You use all of them with Delina, all of them with me, or split them up however you want to do it. Additionally, I can pull in other resources from other people that are specific to your need, right? So if you need a connection, a resource, an opportunity, a person, a system, I will happily open my network and use the double opt-in method, make sure that they're cool with it, you know, not just landing people in each other's inbox, but if they're open to it, you're absolutely welcome to be connected to whoever, right? And people come to me all the time and say, oh, I want to meet Richard Branson, or I want to meet Tim Ferriss, or I want to meet this one. And yeah, I could do that intro, but it's got to make sense, right? It's got to be, there's got to be an equal value exchange, and it's got to make sense for that as well. But if there is that equal value exchange, you come to me and you say, I want to meet Tim Ferriss for these 3 reasons, I feel like I can help him and he can help me, awesome, I'll make that intro. I'm happy to do it, you know, because it helps everybody and the world expands. So, you know, you can utilize us, our networks, and then finally, the last thing is something that we've been working on for a while now. It's called The Choice. And it's like, picture Jack Canfield. You guys ever read Chicken Soup for the Soul? Mm-hmm. So it's like an entrepreneurial chicken soup for the soul. And it's centered around the challenges that entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs face, and then what they do in the gap, right? And they make that choice in that moment to either shrink or to expand, and what they learn from doing that. And we're sharing these stories. We have a ghostwriter who's a wonderful guy named Rodney. So basically it's a transcription, and then we have the story, and then we edit it and we publish. And Delina's published 3 Amazon bestsellers, and we're going for New York Times. So let's say now you're a part of this book, and we hit the New York Times list, which is 13,500 copies to go to #1 on a week where like a Tony Robbins or an Oprah is not launching. So, you know, we're going to time it right. We're going to try to hit the list. And even if we fall short of that goal, we're going to be on the list, right? So that's just #1, 13,500 copies. So Amazon's no problem. We can coordinate all of our combined leverage, all of our brain power, the PR firms, the connections in publishing that we have, and put it all behind that. And now you have a best-selling book. And not because you're going to make money off the book. That's irrelevant. But now you can always say, I'm a best-selling author on Amazon, on New York Times. And what does that do for your credibility as an expert, as a human being, right? When you lead with that, doors open up that wouldn't open up otherwise. So that's the 2 things we want to add, is just additional support from each of us and a chapter in our best-selling book, which is a $2,500 value just in and of itself.
The next book.
The next book,
Choice,
right. This one's
we already have our mastermind.
written, it's finished, we're in publishing and marketing at this point. But we plan to make a series of these that are kind of centered around that, kind of like Chicken Soup for the Soul. So, what I want you to do is take out your pen, and I want you to take the price of each of these. I want you to draw a line through it, because that's not what we're offering today. $7,997 becomes $4,997 for the full pay on the Inner Circle. And $9,997, cross that out and write $6,997 under that. And then finally, I want to make this accessible for anybody who feels called to this. There's no hard sell here. There's nobody going to light a fire on you and say, oh, you got to get into this or not. Like, we're just offering an opportunity. We want to make that as simple as possible. So if you can't swing the full price and save the extra 2 months, well, you can pay monthly as well. And where what you're right underneath is $4,997 on that. If you cross it off, $7,997, and it becomes $497 a month for 12 months. And it's a 1-year commitment, whether you pay it in full or you do it month to month. And that's our pricing today only. Through Sunday, we need to have an answer. If by Sunday you haven't made it up your minds and handed us this form filled out, unfortunately we can no longer honor that price. Additionally, $6,997 for the VIP, it becomes $697 a month. So, I don't know if you're like me, but I probably spend that in dinners. Taking people out to dinner and learning about them. Whether any business is transacted or not in a month. $700 you could spend in a weekend out with your friends. Getting here easily costs you not only the price of your ticket to Tony Robbins, but your plane ticket, any lodging, any incidentals, any expenses you currently have running at home. Like $700, guys, is in today's day and age, not a lot of money. And $497 if you decide you don't want that additional coaching. By the way, we each charge $1,000 an hour to coach, just to coach. That's where our time is valued at, right? Because we only have so much of it. And to truly be present for somebody for an hour or 2 or 3 hours, yeah, it sucks you dry, and it takes time away from other things. So we got to get leverage, right? We got to create opportunities for people to really be able to get in the gap with us and also help each other, because we can't help everybody. And maybe the answer is not going to come from Brad or Delina, but it's going to come from a member of this group. But until you're in the group, you won't be able to connect those dots looking forward, right? Any time in my life where I look back at what things happened, it was a function of saying yes, and then connecting the dots looking back. Like if I hadn't done this for this person, or if I hadn't just been there at this time, or if I hadn't just asked for what I needed at that moment, my life wouldn't look the way that it looks now. And when I look back, I can see it clearly, but looking forward, I can't see ahead. And another point I want to make is that money finds a way to replenish itself, right? You can always make more money in this world, but what you can't make is more opportunities. You can't make more time. Once you've spent time badly, and you've invested it badly, that's it. So I invite you to not look at this as a cost or an expense, but as an investment in the future that you want to create. And we've done a lot today, and we've crammed a lot of content into a very short amount of time, but this is just one day, and you only have a certain amount of capacity to absorb what we're throwing at you. But if you begin to take these tools and use them in your life on a consistent basis with the support and the resources and the accountability and those little guiding taps on the shoulder, those little feathers and bricks and trucks that need to show up every so often to keep us on track, well then that creates the possibility of reaching your goals that much faster instead of maybe or not at all, right? So again, you guys all have the sheet, you all have the pricing. It's $4,997 for the Inner Circle Mastermind full pay for 1 year, or $497 a month. We'll take a deposit if you decide to enroll today. Just get us this form, fill it out, hand it to myself, Talina, Savannah, or Andrew. And then finally for the VIP, it is $6,997 for the year, and that includes everything. Additionally, we want to offer some bonuses, because you guys are in the room, you're in the gap, you're helping us out by being here and just sharing your energy, and we just want to reward you for doing that. So here are some of the things that we've offered the first action takers. We only offer this to the first 5 people that join. So I just want to tell you about what those are. And what you'll receive from us is everything we've ever published. So you'll get a copy of Delina's 3 books, Purpose Now series. They're all bestsellers on Amazon. They're great books. You'll get a copy of her Happy Notes book, which is a recent publication. And then finally, we'll give you a copy of the choice. So you get a first-run copy. It'll be signed by us with a nice photo and all that good stuff. So that's exciting. Additionally, you'll get a bag for the first. I think we have 5 or 6.
5 or 6.
Yeah, we have 5 or 6 like Purpose Now bags and some cool stuff. We've got these value affirmation cards. You can have some of them for sure. But that's all kitschy and stuff. Like I want stuff you guys can use that I can provide. And what I do with another mastermind I run, Make More Marbles Mastermind, is we offer 10 hours a month, included in the price, of consulting with my team. Because sometimes it's not Brad that you want to talk to. You want to talk to Savannah, you want to talk to Andrew, you want to talk to Frank, you want to my sales guy, or our sales guy. You want to talk to Alex, who's really great at writing copy. You want to talk to, members of the team that might have a different skill set or a different way of relating things to you.
Anas, who, by the way, does all my creative design,
Yeah,
all the creative
incredible.
design. This stuff was
These
all
are the rock
designed.
stars that we can
Yeah.
plug you into very easily. And we'll give you, as a result of you signing up, the first 5 spots, and again, that's just first come, first serve, 10 hours of included consulting time with any member of our team. We're going to pay for it out of our own pocket to support you in the way you need to be supported. So if it's in our immediate network and these are people we already have on payroll, or we're partnered with in some way, we're going to pay their bills. You work with them for up to 10 hours. That's a bonus.
The key is to make a decision either way for
Yeah.
yourself.
And
Like
that's
there's
fine.
no push.
Yeah.
Make a decision for yourself, whether it's this mastermind or another, to find a network, to find the support, because you experience all those breakthroughs in total immersion, and that's what a mastermind is. It's total immersion. So it doesn't have to be our group, but you need to make a decision for yourself either way, and that's personal growth in general, right? It's about being committed to yourself and understanding that's an investment in yourself. Okay? So this is, when we decided to do this mastermind, we realized that we wanted to bring there was a lot of times when I was talking to somebody about coaching, but they couldn't afford the coaching. And it's not cheap. You know, one of my, Dana's here, she's one of my clients, she knows, it's not cheap. Okay, so she was one of my private clients. And so this was, and for Brad too, right? So this is our way of being able to give back in a group setting. And it's actually even more powerful because we realize that it's not even about us, it is about everybody else, and that's the power of the group. So just make a decision, that's all I care about. As you know, it's more important that you don't stay in no man's land.
Sure.
That you make a decision either way.
And if you're on the fence, I'll just tell you one story for me that changed everything for me, is that when I don't share this a lot, and you guys, you know, you may or may not take it the right way that I intended, but it's intended as a growth journey. Is when I was 18, you know, my mom left, I didn't have any sisters, I didn't have any women in my life. When I was 18, I read a book, and maybe some of you read it, it's called The Game. It's about a guy who, in his 30s, figures out that, you know, there's a secret society. He was a Rolling Stone author, Neil Strauss. He wrote for the New York Times. And he figured out that there was this underground society of men who had figured out how to pick up women. And they were really good at it, like world class at it. And they knew all the tricks and all the lines and all the psychology around it. And he really just went deep down the rabbit hole for like 2 years learning this skill. And now I didn't care about any of that. As an 18-year-old kid, all I cared about was I couldn't even talk to a woman. And that was so painful for me. And so, like, I was making up so many stories about it. I just wanted to be able to just be comfortable in my own skin, just to go up to somebody and say, hello, I think you're cute, right? And I could do that now as a 32-year-old man, but at that time I was terrified to just get out of my shell. So I didn't agree with everything in the book, and I didn't, you know, but it gave me the permission, right? It just said, hey, listen, you know, there's another way here. We can support you with this. You can relate this to any area of your life that you're struggling. And when Neil put a mastermind together, I joined it. Because his book had affected me so profoundly. It put me on the path towards healing the trauma and the wounds that I had experienced. And you can say he's a hero or a demon, you can say anything in between. It didn't matter. The point is that we had an opportunity as a group to travel to Peru. And one of the experiences that we went under was the Inca Trail. And if you've ever done the Inca Trail, it's like 6 months of planning, and there's porters, and you have like all this, you know, rigmarole and hubbub about, you know, going through this trail. So we had 8 people that were supposed to go, and we had all packed and we're all ready. 5 of them missed their flight and don't show up the morning of. So now it's myself, Neil, and Alex. God rest his soul, he's passed away since. Alex spoke French. So it's me and Neil. Life happening for us on this trail. And there's 13 porters. You want to feel like an entitled piece of crap? Have 13 people you've never met carry all your stuff, set up camp, break it down, get all your meals, and clap for you when you get to camp because you walked up a mountain. I felt like a total loser, but these guys are like amazing. Anyway, so it was me and Neil basically on this trip for 4 days. And he had influenced me, and now he was in a crossroads in his life. This was many years after I read that book, probably 8 years after. And he had this beautiful girlfriend, and her name's Ingrid. And this is all public knowledge, I'm not sure anything that's not already known. He had this, this ability to attract these women. Like he could go out and do it. And we had a series of conversations over 4 days that led to me asking a few questions like, hey Neil, what do you really want? You've already proven that you can go and be with anybody you want to be with. And you know exactly what to say and do to get anybody to be attracted to you. But is that what you want anymore? And he said, I don't know, and I love Ingrid and this and that. And I'm like, well, do you want to start a family? He said, yeah. I said, well, Neil, I got to tell you, man, like growing up how I grew up, it was really hard not having my mom around. So I think at least in the beginning years, it makes a lot of sense to have that tight-knit family unit. At least enough for the kid, just for their sake, to keep it around. And with you doing what you're doing and all these different women, I just don't see it. I just don't see it happening. So you gotta make a decision, man. He's like, yeah, you're right. And he's kind of waffling back and forth. But look at her, she's so beautiful, and this one and that one. I'm like, I get it, man. But at what point does it become an addiction, right? That you don't have control over it. Like, yeah, you can do it, but you have the ability to stop. I think it takes a stronger person to really be able to stop. And then finally, I think the thing that really shifted was, I asked him like, how old are you? He's like, oh, I'm 43. I'm like, all right, great. Well, do you want to be the guy who's 70 at his kid's high school graduation? He said, no, I want to be young and youthful enough to raise my kids the right way. I'm like, well, you got about 5 years to figure that out, bud. This is it. Like, this is the time if it's ever going to be a time. We're all getting older and we don't have the chances. So, long story short, I'm not saying I'm the only one who had this conversation. I'm sure there were a lot of wonderful people in his life, but he shifted and he went and he gave up the game. And he got married. Now he's a beautiful boy at 10. I think he has another one on the way. I haven't talked to him in a little bit, but it's incredible to me that had I not felt and joined my calling, that a man who had influenced me at a very tender young age, I would have never gotten him to shift. And now he's helping men all over the world make the types of shifts, not in relationships even, like just in being okay with themselves. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are affected by his hero's journey from one end to the other that I had a part to play in. So I ask you to suspend the idea of what will I get or how will this look or how can I connect the dots. You don't know. Only God knows. But what I know is that, do you guys believe that things happen for a reason?
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you think that things happen for a reason. I believe that you're in this room today for a reason. To make a consideration about this choice. And to stand in the gap and say yes or no. Yes, meaning the life that was intended for me, a life of abundance and purpose, or no, meaning whatever shows up. And you have free will to create either choice you want. But I invite you to stand in the gap with us and move forward towards your dreams and to being the best and highest version of yourself you possibly can. And thank you for considering that today. I'm grateful. I really am. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, on behalf of everybody at the Abundant Purpose Mastermind, just give you guys a round of applause. You guys are awesome.
I applaud you all for your courage. It's not easy to be in a room with a bunch of strangers and to open up the way you have. I mean, you guys were phenomenal. You kept your energy up. But what I loved was the shares. I loved how engaging you guys were. I mean, you played full out, period, right? And that's key when you're making a breakthrough, when you're making shifts. You must play full out, like I talked about in the beginning. You can't walk away from it. You've got to engage and go deeper, okay? And at the other side of that is where you experience freedom. I want to close out with just a short visualization, just so that you guys can anchor this whole day. It's been a long day.
It's a lot.
Then we're going to have dinner, and then in about 20 minutes or so, we have the van outside that's going to take us to go register for UPW.
But don't rush.
Yes!
Enjoy your food. You guys just, one last reminder, one last point of housekeeping. If you do want in, get us the forms and we'll take care of it for you. We'll lock in your spot and you'll get the bonuses that we talked about. This price will never be the same again. We have to raise the prices.
But you have till Sunday.
Yeah, you have till Sunday, so if you want to get to us by then, if you have questions for us, please come see us privately and we'll work it out.
Okay.
Okay, awesome.
All right, let's just all close our eyes. Let's ground ourselves, right? We all find this place, this space. And we're using the energy that's in the room from the people. It's all about connecting to the oneness, right? So again, I want you to just find your center of gravity, and then I want you to feel your feet getting pulled into the center, the ground, and the energy is pulling you into the core surface of the earth. and you feel it really grounding your energy, Mother Earth supporting you and giving you what you need to receive. And then I want you to just lift your head up off your shoulders, just transcendental lift. Just pull it up, elongate your neck. Allow the space to flow through and envision the white light, beautiful white light, coming from the sky into the top of your head, the crown chakra, flowing through your body, and you could visualize it as like a vortex, and it could actually change colors within your body. It's whatever color you need. And that color just shoots down through the soles of your feet into the core surface of the earth, and it pulls back up and it goes out through your crown chakra. And as this energy is just flowing through you, I want you to focus on 3 things that you're grateful for. 3 things in your life that you're most grateful for. And when you thought about the first one, I want you to stack with the second one. And when you thought about the second one, I want you to stack with the third. And I want you to put your hand over your heart, take a deep breath in, and really experience that sense of gratitude, really experience that joy, really experience that love. Really feel it for yourself. And now I want you to think about 3 things that you must do, whether it's 3 decisions, or maybe it's your 3 to thrive. There was a lot of good content today, but you know what? To implement it, there's your 3 take-homes. Your 3 to thrive. Think about what those are. And make the decision right now to commit to that decision, to give yourself permission to that action, and to take 100% responsibility for your life in doing so. Take a deep breath in. Release. Now I want you to see an energy like a vortex of the light, and you're part of that vortex, and you have your family and your friends in front of you, and you're giving them, and you're sharing with them this light and this love. And it's pouring out of you, and you're contributing it to them. And in many ways, you're healing their wounds. Now I want you to send that light out further into the room so that it reaches every corner of the room. So now you are actually healing person all the way at the other end of the room. And it's limitless because you're limitless. There is no boundary. There is no you that is separated from me. There's only we. And I want you to experience what that feels like. Really feel everybody else's energy and just embrace that and receive it. Give yourself permission to receive the love and the support, the peace. And take a deep breath in. And I want you to say, I love you, thank you. I love you, thank you. One more time. I love you, thank you. And again, I love you, thank you. Just take a deep breath in. Let that out. And we all say, yes! All right! Let's eat.
Yeah, guys, food's ready. Let's eat. Thank you so much for your energy, for your love, for your presence.
What you making?
Trader Joe.
She just called you Jamaican.
What Jamaican?
She just called you Jamaican. What Jamaican?
Jamaican me crazy.
Jamaican me crazy.
Girl,
you working mentally up.
Like, not that I'm like, oh my God.
Is it Wednesday?
Across the room, I'd be like, yeah, you were good. Like anybody would know that. They'd be like,
So they're like, how do we innovate, but like not resort kind of like brand body.
Which only you and I would understand here.
No, it's not true. We have
We got straight out of context. We're making Taco Wednesday, which is leftover taco day.
It's like Taco Boxing Day. The day after Christmas.
You know.
I like Boxing Day.
Oh, you know we do?
I do. I spend a lot of time in Canada.
Oh my God, I'm so proud of you right now.
Thank you. I'm in either Vancouver or Toronto quite a bit.
You gotta come over to Calgary.
I do.
The stampede just happened.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like you're on the way, like you're doing it all.
Hey.
We got Andrew here, the purveyor of guacamole and dips. We got Angelina in the back, Teresa's not sister but best friend. Also from Toronto. We got Juliana, we got Savannah, we got Sarah from Belgium.
You got my roommate. Or housemate, not roommate.
Everybody's just mingling, having a snack, and we're gonna get on the way with your shirt.